So what I remember is we were in Hearst's private chambers, and we had just finished taking a rest, and we found... Oh, you want me to... Okay.
I wrote it for you in case...
Oh, okay, perfect.
In case you were asked for a recap, I started it.
That's very sweet of you.
I do that.
I remember that Shotley put on some of Hearst's clothing.
You didn't put on some of Evie's clothing?
No, I found the dress and I put it in my backpack. We also talked to the 2 busts that were in the secret library that Wally found and ate some of the
Heroes Feast that Terminus provided for you.
Mm-hmm. And then we started making our way towards the Celestial Suite, but the hallway was pretty trashed, and there was writing on the wall referencing, was it Daniel? Yes. Daniel, David's friend from the tour bus.
The one you made. Chill out.
Yes. He was late for the shift and had to go back. Very funny. Writing on the wall, and we saw the...
You should have let him finish that fight. It was going to be the last one he ever had, and you didn't let him finish it.
Knocked out.
No, him and David, man, they were having like a big bro moment, and she was just like, I'm the babysitter. You're not supposed to be acting like this. And now that dude is dead, and he's never going to get to have that cookie that you didn't let him steal from the jar.
Does your normal teacher let you guys fight? Yes.
Does your normal teacher stream it online?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Good to know.
Okay.
Oh, I'm going to have to compete with that bitch for hits. Okay, get a little bloody this time.
Quick, use a catcher packet.
Anyway, sorry, we're interrupting Laura's recap.
No, it's okay. I was just going to start reading what the DM wrote down here. He wrote, we rejoin our heroes at Hearst Castle. Our heroes have recently fought mimics, minotaurs, and had engaging social encounters with cyclopses, water elementals, and put down a chimera. The party returns at the crossing hallways of Casa Grande, approaching the Celestial Suite. So I think that's where we ended. Jack's doing better.
Jack's doing Jack things.
He's
quite
bad.
low on HP, but he seems to have healed up and regained at least a measure of health and is going to continue on his path following you guys.
Yep.
Wally grabs his cell phone and scrolls looking for Shore's phone number. Just kidding.
Shore's another character.
Oh, okay. Why am I confused?
Laura just looks confused.
I know. The reason that was funny to the rest of us is because in a recent session, that dude definitely brought somebody back from death pretty quick.
You get
And
unconscious easily. Death is after you fail your saving throw.
Wait, there's a guy named Shore in Saltmarsh.
Yes, in Saltmarsh
yeah.
there's a guy named Shore.
You're basically there, though. If you hit 0 HP, you have made a critical error at some point.
knocking at death's door.
Yeah, you're at the point where you can't do anything to save yourself. It's up to your surroundings and the mercy of the universe.
Yes.
Anyways.
So we are currently on the 3rd floor, approaching the crossings of the Casa Grande towards the central area that houses the 2 differing suites. Do you remember the names of those suites, Laura? Or are both the Celestial Suites? Or was one the private library? What was
The 2... You repeat the question?
it? Sure.
How about the private library was off the map?
There is the secret library that you found.
Oh,
that
sorry,
was off the map,
secret
yes.
Yeah.
The
Laura
secret
didn't know
library
about
and the
that one.
private library are 2 different libraries. My bad.
Yes.
He's a rich man. He has multiple libraries.
By our count, at least 4.
Do you see the present tense there? Yeah, I see what's up.
I'm going to share my screen just in case. Since I do now have the photo editing software,
What?
I'm able to do a much better job of not destroying the map as we go about.
No more voids?
Hopefully no more voids. Yes, Laura.
Aw, but I like the void.
Well, at last it's time for just arrows that say, "You are here." One loves a good digital interface. I've actually been planning for a while now to upgrade the Game Boy wristwatch interface that I use to go between my laptop and Apex and upgrade it with like GPS related shit and so on. Wally's going to figure out how to launch demigod satellites so that he can use GPS.
So you're gonna go for the trade in the Game Boy and get the Nintendo DS?
Pretty much, he's going to upgrade to, well, at least the Game Boy Advance version, and then we'll think about the DS and incorporate some touchscreen action and shit.
All right. Well, with that, let's go to our tour guide, Laura.
Just like boys in their video games. On your left.
So, Laura,
Yes.
I'm gesticulating by pointing at the screen so that way she's able to see it easily.
Uh-huh.
You're right about here.
Okay.
That's where your most recent encounter with the Chimera was.
Yes.
Cheaters, too meta.
I'm going to take them beeline to the Celestial Suite because I don't need to see any more thrashed hallways and destroyed artifacts.
All right, if that's your design.
I'm following her. She looks really pissed off. I've not ever seen her this angry before, and I kind of want to comfort her, which is weird for Wally, but he definitely can tell that she is mad, and he's like, "Oh, I've never seen you mad. That could be a very bad thing."
She was mad enough to dust a Minotaur.
I've never seen her get violent before in the years that I've known her, and she just straight up dusted a fool. And now she's stomping off and looks like she might cry or nuke the house. I'm not sure which, so I'm gonna follow her.
Maybe both, but I'm going straight there.
Fire will
Regardless
cleanse
of who follows
everything.
me or not.
Yeah, I'm following her definitely. I don't know if anybody else is. I'm gonna back
Nope,
at
I'm
David and
following.
wave. Come on.
I'm following.
What's Chiltley up to? You gonna bring the statue troops with you, or sorry, the knights? You had knights. I forgot about them.
I did have a little entourage with me.
Have they been with us the whole time?
12, 10.
I want to look at the knights and see how badly wounded they are.
Most of the wounds the knights have suffered are bludgeoning damage, and even the fire damage that was sustained by one only caused it to lose its shield arm, so they still have their swords. David used a body blocking technique to prevent the other suit of armor from being completely taken over by fire. So they seem good enough for a fight, and this seems to be their singular purpose, so they're following you wherever you go.
I wish to inspect the floor and see if anybody left anything behind.
Alright, go and roll an investigation.
That will be investigation. That will be a 12 total.
The previous droppings of the creatures were picked up by Wally, the Chimera token that he now wears around his neck as a pendant, and the axe and horns that Laura picked up before. Those appear to be the only remnants of the enemies that were about. You do see quite a bit of art and memorabilia of Hearst Castle destroyed and scattered about the hallway, but you suspect that if you approach it, you might get some side-eye from Laura.
For the sake of a complete recap and a little bonus content, we remind our listeners that the reason the horns belong to Laura is because after this thing impaled one of her friends against a wall, she decided to straight up ace his ass. To the point where, when the fight was over, one of the heroes in the group, Jack, who had been killed multiple times and has killed a whole bunch of times, looked at her and was so scared and frightened of what he saw that he just straight offered the horns to her.
And she took them.
That he did.
That's GD right.
Well,
Laura is the greatest of us all.
She indeed is. Laura,
Mm-hmm.
you may continue to lead this procession if you wish. If you choose to continue forward, please make a performance check.
This one?
That is a d20 and add your performance modifier.
Okay. Fantastic.
Off to a solid start.
He says sarcastically.
Your performance is based off your charisma, and if you have proficiency in it. You do not.
That is a 2.
Yep. Yeah, it is.
Runs into a wall.
All right. Well, Laura, you've been away for a couple of weeks, so you're very familiar with the layout and the comings and goings of what it was a few weeks ago. Now, with all of the blood and grime, destroyed artifacts, and walls that are caved in and broken, mismatching furniture that you are completely clueless of where they even found this 3-tiered desk when Hearst only had one, and I saw it in Hearst's room. They seem to be mismatching furniture, complete odds and ends and knickknacks, tchotchkes that do not seem to have previously been here and are really out of the ordinary. As you continue towards the Celestial Suite, you do also notice that there are fingernail scrapings on the floor going towards the Celestial Suite. You see large, heavy grooves in the floor that are coming away from the Celestial Suite, and a lot of viscera and gore that is covering different areas. Mucus, blood, hair, tons of different materials, genetic materials that you recognize as being from monsters leaving from and going to the Celestial Suite.
Wally looks around the room, looks at Laura, or around the hallway, looks at Laura and goes, "Does it normally look so much like a wedding in here?"
Never. Everything's upside down and everything's in the wrong spot. And
It's in the wrong
it's
spot!
in the wrong place.
It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. He walks forward, and even though he's short her, he attempts to pat her on the shoulder, which actually just amounts to him sort of smacking her elbow a little bit.
You get the sentiment. You don't get the pat, but you get the sentiment.
It's gonna be alright. It's gonna be alright. Look, we've fixed bigger problems than this, haven't we? We wouldn't be Camp Half-Blood if we weren't good at solving problems. We'll figure this out. Meanwhile, the room that you are about to storm angrily into, is there a chance there might be an ambush inside it, based on, the decorations we're currently seeing?
Given the decorations, possibly, but for the sake of everything in there, I hope not.
How are you feeling? Before we open this door, do you need a snack or anything? If we have to fight, are you fit?
Jack
And then
pipes
Meta,
up, "I'm
how
not
many
fit."
HP? Well, yeah, but Meta, how many HP does Laura have?
So HP means hit points.
Mhm.
This is your current hit point value. You had the bonus of your Hero's Feast, which gave you 2d12. You rolled a 15.
Right.
So you are at 43 HP total.
Okay.
Of your, before this fight started, possible 58, you're at 43.
Okay.
Okay, 43 out of 58. All right.
So,
Wally offers her an ambrosia square, even if she doesn't need it, just because he knows that the comforting flavor of it might make her feel a little better with how things have been going.
Laura, go ahead and roll a history check.
this one?
Yeah.
11.
Time to break out the snacky snacks.
All right, you are familiar with that. You're proficient with history, which rolls a 14. Your ambrosia, being the nectar of the gods and one of the many forms that demigods use to heal from wounds inflicted by monsters, not necessarily to recover from a common cold or a paper cut. Like if you've been gored by a minotaur, usually you eat a couple of ambrosia squares and try to heal up these gaping wounds in your chest. You are definitely familiar that these types of nourishment that are brought along on these quests are sort of first aid kits and paramedics' first responses towards, wow, he got a huge thing that cut off parts of his fingers. He needs real help. This is a huge gesture from Wally. They are about the size of Post-it notes.
Okay.
It's about a pack of post-it notes, and they are almost like a tray of brownies thick.
And to whoever eats them, they taste like whatever food you enjoy most.
Ooh.
That's the main reason that Wally did it, is because she's had a really hard day and has been made to feel really uncomfortable. People have come into her house and thrown everything everywhere. She just said everything's out of place, everything's crazy, these people shouldn't be here. So Wally wants her to have the opportunity to taste French fries or whatever it is that makes her feel comfortable before we go into more crazy.
Maybe something pointy.
Maybe, yeah. She takes it, says thank you, and eats it relatively slowly.
So
What's it taste like?
to you, Laura?
Oh, what?
Since you're using first-person perspective.
Tastes like...
What's her favorite food ever?
Or even just like, mediocre to good.
No. It tastes like cold, crisp key lime pie. Really
Ooh.
tart, tiny bit of whipped cream, cold.
There you go.
Nice.
Bluer
Because of the cold feeling, does it immediately make more awake? Do her eyes widen a little bit? Like the sugar rush feeling, kind of?
Yeah, it's not like an uncomfortable cold, but it's just kind of like just woke up from a nap and you're feeling a little bit refreshed.
You're feeling ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Wally notices the change that comes over her as she nibbles on it. He doesn't ask what it tastes like because that's personal and he would never ask inside of game. But noticing that she seems to feel a little better as she eats it, and we'll find out how much better HP-wise in a moment, I'm sure, he just looks at her and says, remember, wherever you decide your home is, it stays there until you decide otherwise. These things, whatever they are, they don't decide where you live. You do. So if you want them gone, we'll make them gone.
Laura just nods and finishes eating it silently.
And at this point, I guess we just wait for the rest of the group to catch up to us because they're going to wonder where we've gone, even if. Well, David's right behind us, actually, but they're going to wonder, Chotle is going to catch up to us with his entourage at some point. We'll wait for him.
So, Chotle, David, what are you two doing in the back?
I mean, I went with Wally and Laura.
Yeah, he's right behind us. He's just being quiet. Are you eating something?
Yeah, David's gonna be snacking on some ambrosia.
I
David
freaking knew he was eating something.
It's ambrosia. I'm at 26 out of 60.
He's proud of his syllables, though. Anytime David's not in part of the conversation, I'm pretty sure he's eating something.
Oh god, so you're gonna treat David as like the cat? It's like I can't, or the baby. I can't hear it. What's it eating?
It's more like how
Like
Brad Pitt is in the Ocean's trilogy. Like almost every single shot, he's eating something, and then he starts talking. Or someone else starts talking, and so he starts eating whatever he was eating.
I mean, next thing you're gonna say is I can't hear Shotley. What's he stealing?
I mean, that's pretty accurate. I would.
Laura's already got that on. Laura's already very aware of her maternal senses inside this house are on lock.
David, you and Laura both heal 5 HP. I have removed 1 ambrosia square from both yours and Wally's inventory.
Thank you.
Thank you.
David, you do know that you are still at just about less than max HP, half max HP.
Where's Jack while all this is going on? Did he follow us or stay with Cholte?
Jack stood about 6 inches from where he got pinned to the wall and is bandaging his wounds presently.
So he's still back there. All right. With Cholte.
Cholte, what are you doing?
I'm making sure that Jack's alright before I follow the rest of the group up.
Well, thanks for waiting, Chotle. Seems like everybody else is in a hurry to keep going. Do you have any more bandages?
I rummage through my inventory and try to find anything that I may or may not have.
Usually it's not part of a thieves' kit, but
A rope, backpack, some arrows, money, 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 more money, some teeth,
I bet he's got some tea.
some poison. I hold up some golden squares up, and I'm like, I don't know about bandages, but I got some of this.
Well, I'll definitely take what I can get.
I offer ambrosia to Jeff. Ugh.
Ambrosia squares.
So how many are you offering to me?
Wow, he was that
I-
direct? What a dick. Give him
Well, I
nothing.
got
rummage.
plenty of my own as well. I appreciate the offer.
Well, then why
I
is he
rummage-
bandaging his wounds like a bitch? Just kidding.
I rummage through my stuff and see how many ambrosias I have.
You recognize that in your ambrosia container you had an undisclosed amount previously. It is now a disclosed amount of 10.
I offer. Well, how many do you need?
I appreciate the offer, Cholet. You don't need to give me any of your private stash of ambrosia. Because I know you just top yourself off on other people's ambrosia to make sure you always have a fine amount of 10. I'll definitely be able to bandage myself, though. Thank you.
All right.
Bandages.
Give him a quick
Because-
pat on the back.
Even though we do eat ambrosia, we do still need to bandage our own wounds, and I still can get infections.
Yeah.
David's like, what's an
I,
infection?
I'm like, you want some water to wash off those holes? I offer up my water skin to him.
I don't know. Where's the nearest bathroom? Maybe I should wash some of my own golden dust off of me. This is kind of weird. I feel like I'm getting some sand in my undies.
Ooh.
I feel like your undies are probably brown at this point. You were basically dead, dude.
Wally, you're not here.
I know. Sorry, didn't mean to out you in public like that.
The internal monologue of Wally.
The internal monologue of Wally. Yeah. Yep. So, you watch as Jack bandages himself up pretty well, finds a means to heal himself up to full eventually, with the remainder of his spells being expended. He doesn't expend all of them, but he didn't start with all of them, so he heals up enough before continuing, since everybody's leaving now and not taking a short rest.
Are you suggesting that we need to take
I'm not suggesting, I'm just pointing out.
Well, we are taking a short rest, actually, because we stopped outside the door to wait for the rest of the party to catch up. And this whole conversation between Cholet and Jack has to be taking time.
Negatory. That takes about 2 minutes between Cholet and Jack, unless you stipulate and everybody partakes in a 15 to 20 minute rest. In which case,
How long
then you
it's-
could spend your hit die.
But it's not like, we're not going through that door without them, so we'll sit and wait for as long as it takes them to catch up to us.
They catch up.
Does that take 15 to 20 minutes?
No, the conversation takes about 2, and then he starts to make his way up. With the spells he casts on himself taking about 6 seconds to cast, he finds it easy to eventually regenerate enough that he's standing at his full height. He's no longer bleeding, but the bandages on his chest do cover up the skin that you would see beneath the wounds in his shirt. He finds the rest of the group eventually. Cholet, do you bring anybody else with you?
I do not actually.
Jack turns to you. Do you not want to bring those armored soldiers with us?
Oh, I thought you meant like someone from the party. My apologies.
Yeah, I thought he already
I
said
thought
that
they were. I thought they
follow
were
you
just
wherever,
following me.
yeah.
My bad. I thought I misunderstood from last time.
I heard him say that too, that they were following you wherever you went. So I was confused by that too.
I
What do you
take a couple
mean?
steps and see if they're still following.
Clang, 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 clang. They stop as you take a couple of steps. You take
And
a
then
step, clang. You take another
Okay.
step, clang.
I continue following, or I continue walking and making sure that they're following me.
Alright. So, Laura, what does the Celestial Suite look like to you?
Without opening the doors, just how I remembered it?
Sure.
Okay. Alright. It is almost like a circular room, 12 walls. Maybe half of those walls have really ornate windows that look out over the front of the Casa Grande garden area. I remember there being a large queen-size bed with the 4 posts and the headboard, really ornate, all old dark wood, really basic furniture for a sparse bedroom. So maybe a standing writing desk, chest of drawers, everything matches, everything's dark, really reliant on natural sunlight.
Well done. Well said.
Thanks.
As you approach the entryway to it, you know that there are the small inclined steps leading up to it before the doorway. You know that as you enter the area, there's an immediate leftward turnoff towards the bedroom, and the bathroom is dead ahead from when you open the front door, followed by the closet adjacent to it. So there's about a 10-foot square small hallway leading into the Celestial Suite chamber.
With bathroom,
Correct.
closet, bedroom.
Yes.
Got it.
So you approach the area, you look upon these steps in front of it, and it's quite a gruesome scene. What does it look like?
Well, you said there were parts everywhere, so I'm kind of imagining just more monster parts hanging off the doorknobs and all the ornate crevices of the hallway and the doors. Maybe some ripped fabric.
Are any of the parts disintegrating?
No, they're not. It's just gross everywhere. Sticky. Gross.
And you notice that as you're getting closer and closer to this area, you are seeing more viscera, and in particular, for the first time in this campaign, other than the writing on the walls that was literally in blood, you're seeing blood and trails of it being dragged towards this Celestial Suite.
Well, that's new.
I wish to investigate to see where the blood trails lead to.
Based off your investigation, you recognize that the 4 steps leading up on this small incline up to the Celestial Suite do show that there have been attempts at gripping the stairs before they were pulled into the Celestial Suite. You see some handprints of 4 fingers, some handprints of 5 fingers, some having almost hoof-like prints as well that are being dragged through here to the interior. David, you recognize these handprints as well.
Yep,
They've hit you in the face several times.
they did. They also punched me in other places. Ooh. But there are hoof prints, so I'm assuming that was from the Minotaur. I'm gonna walk up the stairs and try to step in the not wet parts of the stairs. I don't want to step, get any of that on my shoes.
Fantastic. It takes you a couple of extra wide steps, and you jump around to make sure that you're able to get through the area without stepping upon it. As you approach the doorway, Laura holds out her hand for but a moment, and just the brief movement behind you, since everybody is already still on edge, stops you before you enter into the doorway of the Celestial Suite. She looks to you and describes to everyone what is expected to be there in the layout of the Celestial Suite as she remembers. She describes the hallway that's going to be breaking off to the left, the interior area that has, in particular, 12 walls that are in what is expected to be almost an octagon-like formation, but octagons only have 8 sides, so it's a duodecagon.
A little more round.
A little more round. And you are familiar that in this area, it's going to be incredibly dark because there's not very much light. It's very sparse inside of there. And as you are approaching it, David, your hand is reaching out towards the door handle. And you see just below the edge of the doorway, there is a small, dim red light being emitted from the interior. And it seems to be pulsating. It seems to have its own heartbeat as well, where it dies down and dims for a moment, and then beats a brighter and more fierce crimson. Laura describes... Sorry.
Before I do anything with opening the door, I'm gonna wait until everyone's ready to go through the door. I don't want to go busting through any doors alone. Or having people down not at the door before I start Sparta kicking doors, trying to find Daniel.
Laura will be upset if you Sparta kick any of her doors.
Just in general. Jack chimes in. So, are we expecting Bane to be on the other side? What's going to be through here?
We don't know, but let's find out. At this point, Cholet opens up the door.
Alright, Cholet, you walk through, stepping on some of the still wet and dripping blood that's pouring down the stairs. You reach up, press your hand against the door handle. Go ahead and make a dexterity saving throw.
That will be 16.
Alright. You're very fortunate that you're proficient with dexterity saving throws. As you reach out your hand to touch the door handle, upon contact with your skin on the door handle, it slams inward, opening with a loud, harsh thud and reverberates in the surrounding stone. You peer inside, and even though there is the red dim light, it's almost like a photography red room where they used to develop photographs and using different chemicals react to produce pictures. The entire area is cast in this red hue, almost like a filter over top of everything you see in there. It is incredibly dark and does seem to still pulsate like a heartbeat. You look inward, and immediately in front of you is the restroom. Off to the left of it, maybe 6 inches from its doorway, is another subsequent doorway that has the closeted areas. And then you do recognize that the hallway continues left of you into the Celestial Suite.
I look behind the party. Shall we?
David walks in.
Laura follows behind David.
Cholet, after you enter, between you and David, your soldiers are struggling to find a way to walk around David, so they wait patiently. David goes in forward, then clank, 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 follow after you. David?
Yes?
What you gonna do?
I mean, I just entered the room. Everything's in a red glow. Do I notice what is the blood trails and stuff doing? Are they going down the farther into that hallway on the left?
The blood trail does seem to have left markings and indications that they were being dragged from this area and to this area. That there have been a lot of comings and goings through here. You see footprints, hoofprints, fingers. In some parts, you actually still see fingernails attached to the wood as people were clawing their way, trying to find some sort of purchase on the area nearby. The wood has hundreds and hundreds of stripes that are horizontal, that you recognize to be claw marks from fingernails.
The quote-unquote empty hallway.
Oof.
In the area
Yeesh.
of the central celestial suite, you continue forward and you look upon what is a large set of 2 stone doors, with the central area between the 2 of them having small round door handles that appear to be peaked, almost pushing forward ever so slightly, and that's where the red light is being emanated from. It does pulsate below it, and you get this deep sense of hatred and dread emanating from this doorway.
As he brings up the rear and they're walking along, Wally glances over at the 2 robotic knights, and he wants to, not too closely, but just scanning them, look for any kind of transmitter or antenna that might be sticking off of them somewhere.
In your investigation and assessment of these knights, they do not have mechanical components. The entire interior of them seems to be elemental of some kind, similar to what you saw with the water elementals previously.
So like a magically animated suit of armor. There's not anything actually
Correct.
mechanical about this. Okay, sorry. I thought you had described them earlier as being automaton. My bad.
They do work autonomously, but they do receive input, yes.
Okay, sorry. My bad.
It's all good.
Wasting time. Please continue.
Ooh. I mean, I kind of want to open those doors, but I want to make sure everyone's going to be ready for when those doors open.
You're the king of rock. There is none higher. Sucker MCs should call you sire.
Such poetry.
I know. If, nobody got that reference, it's cool. I'm old. It's fine.
No. It's entirely covered. You can invest in it. Yes, David.
David's going to approach the doorway with that red light emanating out from under it.
All right. As you approach, you take in the surrounding area that is the Celestial Suite. The room that Laura had previously described as being beautiful and well architected and designed. Probably a little bit of a humble brag because she designed it. But nonetheless, she described the walls being 12 feet tall and having intricate and ornate methods of bringing lights into the area, so that way it was a natural light instead of having all of the artificial lights in the area. As you appear and look about, you notice in several areas there is a small cascade of light that pierces through the area that is from the exterior of the castle. It does reflect the color of the fog and the dark mist mixed with a light gray as it's penetrating into the area. You see as the light cascades in, it continues in about 6 to 8 inches and then stops. It hits this aura emanating from the doorways that seems to be absorbing and sucking, drawing all light, and emitting its own red light from it. As you approach the doorway, you look about, and you notice that the furniture itself is missing. The small desk that Laura had described, the writing desk, the drawers that the guests would be able to store their clothing in, the closet itself, also the door that was previously there is slammed open as well. And as you peer inside of it, it is entirely empty and devoid of all articles of clothing. Still has a lot more of the markings and the scratchings. Some of them inside of there do appear to be a bit more gruesome as well. You look about the rest of the room. It is blank and sparse with the exception of the doorways in front of you.
I'm going to walk up to the door, just finish walking up to the door, and I would like to pull the anchor out of my backpack just to get ready for whatever may be on the other side.
Alright, before we engage with the doors themselves, I'd like for everybody to establish where they are in the room. I will have Laura beam my eyes for the map while I use the restroom.
Tiny map. Okay.
Warning! Warning! You're all about to die.
Alright.
Roll a new character.
I've been populating with the chat with as many warnings as possibly could.
So, David, you're right in front of the doors within touching distance, or no?
I'm making my way over to touching distance of the door.
Okay. And Shotley, where are you?
Where am I supposed to be looking at exactly? I'm a little confused because the map has like the whole area, so I'm trying to figure out where we are.
Are we
right
standing in a hallway or in a room? That's my question.
Yeah.
He just sketched a tiny little map like on a piece of paper. So basically, there's a.
Is it square or is it a
No.
long hallway?
So it's a straight hallway, and then to the straight ahead.
There's a door that we're supposed to be going through. So he just wants to know the order of who's.
Yeah, who's closest to the door? Who's closest to the.
Gotcha. So David's about to turn the door handle. Is that what you?
David's approaching the door to get within touching distance.
Well, damn. Who's right behind him? Any volunteers?
Laura walked into the room after David did, so I guess she'll be right behind him.
Okay, so she's right there with him.
I think we're the last two behind Wally.
I was keeping an eye on Laura anyways, so I will be just behind her.
Okay.
And then I'm at the end.
You bringing up the rear with your knights, or are they in front of you?
No, they're behind me, I think.
Okay.
All right.
They've been following me the entire time, so I don't think they're.
Hey,
in front of
man,
me.
I have no problem with you putting up a big metal wall behind us as we walk along.
Yeah.
In case there's more minotaurs.
Or anything at all, really. Somebody could walk across the hallway with an AK, and he's got a bunch of magical suits of armor just walking behind us, soaking up bullets.
Jinx just shows up and is like, "Hey, it's been a while since I shot you people."
None of us even notice. It just sounds like it's raining for a half a second. The armor looks at us and goes, "We itch," and a bunch of bullets just drop off him.
We will say that Jack is behind the two sets of knights.
Okay, sounds good.
Leading in as well. So that accounts for everybody in the party. So, before David interacts with the door, does anybody want to investigate anything else in the room?
I would like to investigate the room
Great idea.
itself, because Laura wants to see how trashed her baby is.
We're in a hallway, though, right?
You have left the hallway and are now standing in the center of the Celestial Suite.
So we filed through the door in that order. That's what we were figuring. Okay, just catching up.
Yes, you definitely need to roll investigation.
Alright.
Are we all rolling investigation?
If you want to look about, sure.
I'm just looking about.
If Laura seems interested in this room, Wally for the moment is feeling a little bit protective of Laura. Who knows why? But so he, if she seems like this room is freaking her out, he's going to investigate it.
Most of this room is freaking everybody out.
David's also going to roll investigation.
Go for it, David. Let me see what you can glean from the area.
Well, yeah, but for Wally, blood is just human fuel. It's human lubricant. Humans are breakable, and so are monsters. And blood freaks you out. Okay, well, then I shouldn't explain to you how similar the assembly of a human is to the assembly of an automaton when you get down to it.
That's just people oil. So David, with his -2 to investigation, got a 17.
Your investigation is a -2?
Yeah.
Oy.
But I got a 17.
That's ridiculously awesome, dude. Good for you. Because with my +10, I got a 14. So we just decided to balance each other real quick. I rolled a 4, and you rolled a 19. Between the two of us, we're kind of okay.
Yeah. We make a good team. We all make a good team.
We compensate very well. Whenever one of us does something that's really awful, there's always somebody else in the group who's like, well, I know I have a -2 to this, but I rolled a nat 20, so...
All right. The reason I'm making sure that everybody stipulates if they're looking about is because I'm going to ask what you're looking for and where you are looking. Cholet, are you looking about as well?
I'm more interested in, with my 5, making sure that everybody's in the room and kind of just discerning that there's no immediate danger in the room.
No one else is in the room.
Uh,
I like that.
All right, fair enough. Well, let's start in the order that we got it. Shotley, with your 5, you were able to look about everybody.
Wait, you don't have a massive investment bonus, Chole?
no, I have investigation is 3.
It's a +3. Oh, you rolled a 2? Really?
Yep.
Oh, my bad, dude. I thought you were saying you rolled a 5. I was like, don't sell yourself short. You're very observant.
All right. Going back to the descriptors. Shotley, you look about and you recognize that everybody in your party has left the initial hallway and has entered into the Celestial Suite proper. You're able to look about and notice that there are a peculiar shape to the rooms that are surrounding you. They have, in particular, 12 different walls, and the crisscrossing latticework in there seems to almost be melting on the sides as well, which frustrates Laura as she looks about. Continuing on, Laura, you do notice that as well. You do, in particular, take note that the floors and carpet in the area are being torn and ripped up, being pulled towards the doorways themselves. And in the sparse and bare parts of the floor, you're able to see the wood below it and see huge hoof prints in the indentations on the wood where the carpet has been peeled back. You also notice, as you look about the rooms, the hallway behind you does also have markings of huge, almost gargantuan creatures leaving through here that dent and warp and break off pieces of the exit and entryways of the hallway that you entered from. You're also able to identify, looking about, different pieces of the bed frame that has now been broken and shattered. There's debris from the desks in the southeastern corner of the room as well. Well, it's a round room, so there's not really corners. But the southeastern portion of the room. Continuing on, Wally, what were you looking for, my friend?
I was looking to see if the various tracks and drag marks and so on indicated any hidden exits to the room. Are there any pieces of furniture, for instance, that have claw marks on them, but they're not knocked over? Nothing is displaced. It just looks like something clawed it up, but it's still standing. I wonder how that happened. Are there any drag marks toward an apparently empty wall? Like that sort of thing.
You do recognize that a lot of the surrounding area has been destroyed. That what was previously here, the bed frame that Laura described, and the writing desk and set of drawers, have all been completely destroyed and turned into little more than dust and shrapnel.
Mm-hmm.
The floor itself appears to be peeled back from the carpet in many of the different spots. All of the walls themselves appear to have almost a melting sort of visual effect to them. And the lights that were previously going to be, the sources of light that were going to be penetrating from the latticework around it now seem to have melted and look almost teardrop shapes, like they're tears that are flowing through from the ceiling.
But like the claw marks and the blood that come into the room and go out of the room. Do they come into the room or go out of the room, or seem to in any spot where there's not a...
Negative. You notice that all of the claw marks do parallel all the way through the hall, all the way to the doors, and out of the doorway. As you inspect
They don't seem
the
to go
room
anywhere
and
else.
follow
Okay.
the 12 panelings around it, you feel that the wood itself is also, since it's a wood paneling to it, does have almost a deterioration and rotting effect to it, as if it is devolving or destroying the area around it, melting it down. You're familiar with this as well, working with a lot of metal and a lot of different tools at your disposal. You recognize that wood does warp under intense amounts of heat. So you suspect if these doors have been here a while and they are emanating this radiant light, this heat source, and this red light, they are probably what's causing the warping and deterioration of the area around it.
So retracing my steps to the source that you just mentioned, you said the doors are doing it, emanating a red light?
Yes, the doors do emanate the red light.
Of the doors that lead from the hallway into this room.
No, the doors that you entered the Celestial Suite and saw, those emanate the red light.
But there are no drag marks going in or out of those doors?
There are. It's very ominous because everything's going to it and everything's coming from it.
Okay, I misunderstood. I thought you were saying we were in a dead circular and the only marks were coming in and out of this room. I didn't realize that there was already another exit implied. That's what I was investigating for. My bad.
No, the only entrance and exit, the entrance to this area is what you used, the bathroom and closet. The exit to this area, you suspect, is also another entrance from somewhere else into this room. And
Right, but those doors are emanating a very magical aura?
Yes.
Does it feel... How does it feel? And just powerful or inherently good or evil? Just nothing? What do I feel when I reach out to it?
As you extend your fingers towards it, you feel a perpetual dread. A source of elemental evil that you have not felt
I
possibly
do not
ever.
touch it. I do not touch it, especially not with my bare hand. The moment I start to get that vibe, I back up and I look over at Laura, and then I look from Laura to Chotle, and then back again, and go, this does not seem like my sort of magic. You two want to take a look?
Laura will kind of mimic get closer to the door and kind of mimic what Wally did, kind of reaching out, trying to get a sense of what it might feel like to her.
All right, Laura, as you approach, being the daughter of Hades that you are, you extend your forearm and fingers towards it and recognize that a small square appears about 6 inches to the right of the right door and about 6 inches forward. You're familiar to similar scenarios with the doors to Olympus, and in particular the method of ascension that is used to visit Olympus from the Empire State Building. However, this one appears to be hovering in front of you and is not directly attached to the doorways, but only became visible as you approached and reached out to the doorway.
She pulls her hand back and sees if
It
it
fades
disappears. Oh, okay. Did I? Was I? I don't know.
You did a great job investigating. You found something.
Yeah.
It wasn't there when David or when Wally reached out to look at it. Oh, sorry, I forgot to describe what David sees. David, as you look about, your keen eye, your singular eye, while you can't perceive depth very well, you can perceive differences in color quite extremely. So you're able to see almost a lattice work itself weaving its way through the structure, extending upwards and surrounding you, almost like veins and arteries that are extending from this heart that is the doorway in front of you. And you're able to watch it pulsate with the light itself mimicking it. As you're familiar with your own heartbeat and those that are wiggling beneath your blade, you're familiar that blood does emanate to and from this area, so you're able to watch it as the red light does extend upwards and out towards the ceiling, and you do notice that it does reach a central point high above as well, where it starts to fade into a gray, where it appears that the arteries and veins of this do not reach that high up. You do notice that there's a stopping point around it. But the longer you look at it, you recognize that the pulsing does seem to be expanding into the area, and it is extending upwards as well.
Oh, so it's expanding and growing out.
Yes.
Oh boy.
In particular, upwards.
That's not good.
Laura, you do notice that David's looking around and looking up. Do you have any information about what's above the Celestial Suite?
Oh. Well, I guess I'd turn to David and ask, what are you looking at?
That is a good question there. Well, the door is making light thingies, and they're going up to the ceiling, kind of like a heart. It's doing that thing that hearts do, but it's going up to the ceiling.
Cholet touches his heart and see if it's reacting at all with the room as he gets closer to the door.
Cholet, as you do approach the doorway, David, with his keen eye, notices that the heartbeat does accelerate as you approach it. However, when you get within reaching distance like Laura did, the button does not appear for you. And Wally, will you make another investigation check, please?
Oh boy, sure I will. That'll be 18, sir.
All right. As you are standing there listening to everybody converse, watching everybody's interactions amongst it, you do also see above the doorway appear a semicircle. It's half a circle that has the bottommost flat part just above the doorway itself, similar to what you've seen when you visited Olympus. You've probably visited Olympus one time, but not for very long and not for very many repeated visits because they're gods and they kind of tick you off quite a bit.
Yeah, I don't like the place. I don't really like them.
You do recognize that as you're looking at it, with each successive heartbeat that you're feeling from the red emanating energy, there is an arrow on it that is from left to right, a clockwise rotation, reaching its tallest point at the center of it and is now continuing towards the descending angle clockwise from 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock as you're looking about the area.
Sorry, you're saying that this arrow is traveling from the door around the room, or
It is above the door, similar
above
to
the
an
door?
elevator's floor descriptor that is above it, that goes from ground floor to any other floors to third floor or whatever the floor may be.
And it is turning from the 12 o'clock position to the 3 o'clock position.
Correct.
Got you. I'm going to look at everyone else and go, I think we're about to have company.
Wally, you do notice that there are 12 marks on it as well.
12 marks on it.
Yeah, in the half circle.
On the dial, on the whole dial?
On the whole dial, all the way across.
On the whole half circle.
Yes.
Okay.
It is currently at 6, turning to 7 as you're investigating.
Oh,
And
it's going the other direction. I apologize.
6 to 7, 7 to 8, 8 to 9.
So amending that, I look around the room and say, "Oh, my apologies. I think this is an elevator. I'm not sure how we use it, but it seems like there might be a bit more to this particular house than what we can see." I mean, I look at Laura. How tall is this place supposed to be?
Well, there's 3 floors, but the Celestial Suite was built as almost like a fake 4th floor because Hearst needed somewhere to store a water tower.
And that's where we are now, on the fake 4th floor.
Right, which technically, the ceiling that we see isn't the real roof. It's not the full ceiling. Above it,
No, right.
there's a water tower and bells.
Yeah, but, and then I point at the dial over top of the door. That seems to indicate that there's, almost a dozen floors here. I mean, have you been to all of them?
You would know that it's a timer, that you've been here about 6 minutes investigating, and that it reached 6, and as you're talking to him in 30 seconds accrue, you notice it gets halfway to 7. As you finish your minute of conversation, it gets 7.5. As you're staring at it, looking at it, it gets 8.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's indicating floors as much as it's indicating time.
You over for a cigarette?
I wonder what happens when it gets to the 1-2 number.
David, fantastic question. Go ahead and make an intelligence check for me. See if you can piece it together. Since you're
Oh, this is just the guy to do this. Yeah, definitely. And I don't mean, that you, Papa Fleur, are just the guy to do this. I mean, David absolutely is the guy to figure this shit out. Let's do it.
So intelligence.
Come on.
Well, with that super cool -2, that's a 15.
Oh,
Nice.
I was waiting for him to roll a nat 20, but he still rolled a 17. Beautiful.
You do recognize that since monsters do come and go from here, you think that maybe if something's coming up here, it might be coming from down there. And you know that Tartarus is where all the monsters come from. It's kind of a big word for you, but you know Tartarus. Tartarus is one thing that has been ingrained in your mind for decades. Yeah, I don't really remember how old you are, neither do you. But for at least decades, you remember that Tartarus is a place that when monsters get slain, they go. And in particular, you, being a monster as well, have always feared being sent to Tartarus and how harsh of an environment that is. And if death is the end for you, or if you are eternal and you will be respawned over and over and over again to try to kill these demigods, you don't really know.
I'll be right back. I'm going to take 5 real quick and walk Lily while everyone else is examining the elevator. Sorry, gotta dash real fast. I'll be right back.
Go for it.
Oh,
I'll talk to them.
so that's a little spooky. If we're on this fake 4th floor, how many floors below below that first one, do you think there are? Or would there have been before all this happened?
Jack chimes in. I'm familiar with some lore being here where the doors of death are what monsters look for while they are in Tartarus, trying to escape back to our world. So I don't really know if it matters if there are other floors. It seems like a direct go-between, almost like a chute or a butler's elevator that just delivers from one floor to the other and doesn't care about the distance between. It sounds like a one-way sort of ride. But now that I see people being dragged to it, I suspect maybe people are using it for two-way travel. But I don't think that the lines at the top are floors. It's not stopping.
So someone turned my room into a monster elevator.
A elevator.
I am not a happy camper.
Shirley chimes in. You mean an elevator?
David gives him the finger guns and goes, "Hey!"
Laura just glares.
Laura does also realize it's 10 approaching 11.
Okay.
And if monsters are coming up, and monsters hate and eat and fight demigods.
Okay.
How big is that closet?
Pardon?
How big is that closet that we saw?
It's about 5 feet wide, 10 feet deep.
Is it big enough for all of us to try to hide in? Because that might be the only place we can try to hide.
You can definitely find out, David.
So we have about a minute-ish before something happens. Okay. Laura sticks her hand back out and tries to make the magic box, floaty box appear. Yeah.
It appears in front of you.
Okay.
Inches from your fingertips.
Laura looks at the numbers and sees if the floaty box is making the time stop, go backwards, it's continuing. Okay.
No change.
No change. Laura puts her hand back.
You are familiar with how elevators work, where if you push the button more and more and more and more, it does not make it come any faster.
Wait, was it the button? Wait,
No.
Was I pushing the button?
No, but you would know ahead of time.
I know how elevators work.
Does David know how elevators work?
No, David doesn't, and he wants to reach out and push the button, but Laura pulls her fingers back and it disappears.
Don't touch anything.
Alright, are we hiding
I
in the
mean-
closet?
Maybe we need to go, like, try to hide in the closet. This is the monster respawn point. What if that chimera's coming back?
Laura looks triggered for a moment. Wally looks triggered for a moment. Jack looks triggered by the Minotaur for a moment.
Yeah. What if both of those are what's coming up right now? Yes, we killed them before. But they're gonna remember. They're gonna be really mad.
Okay. Oh shoot.
I mean, the
You,
closet.
as I gestured to Laura, Laura remembers that not only do monsters have visual and audio senses, but in particular, the reason that monsters seem to be always drawn towards demigods and fight you is because they can smell demigods as well.
Oh, so hiding in the closet won't help.
You can try.
So we either need to figure out how we can mask our demigod. Oh no. Oh no. Laura's had an awful idea.
What is Laura's awful idea?
Okay, what if we
Go on.
try
Go on.
to disguise our demigod smell by using all of the gross monster parts that are all over my room and just rolling around in it.
Oh, you mean like they did in that zombie show?
Sorry about that, guys.
Laura doesn't like zombies, but
David's watched The Walking Dead.
Okay.
Well, no, we don't want to get hit with the copyright. It's the stumbling not alive.
All right.
I like that, and you have just given this episode a title if that's what you're countering. But I would just like to apologize to the group. Lily gave me that looked like she was about to pee on the floor. I haven't seen it in a while, so I kind of freaked out. Sorry there.
Laura will
you're
probably
good.
need to describe to Wally her conclusion one more time.
Sorry. So what did I miss? My bad, really.
So basically, we realized that the elevator timer is counting
Backwards.
up to 12, but we only have like a minute and a half before it gets to 12, which is the last number. Laura remembered that monsters can smell demigods, so hiding in closets or in the corner of a room probably wouldn't work. So she just suggested to the party, because we only have like a minute left before something probably happens, that they use all of the monster parts and goo to try to disguise their smell by like, Laura's not happy.
Laura suggested that?
Yeah.
And that's when
Okay.
David was like, "Oh, like they did on the Stumbling Corpses show."
Wally was gonna say, "Oh, Predator. I'm sorry, I'm old." And then he looks over at Cholet to see if someone even knows the reference.
I think
Cholet's
David
trying
would know
to
the
make,
reference as well.
Helicopter noises, like.
I think David would know the reference.
Well, you're all pretty young. The question is, are you Tom Holland? You remember that really old movie, Alien? Or are we going like, Wally and Cholet have lived through the 20th century. They know movies like Predator, and everyone else in the group is under 20, and they have no clue. The other day I heard Cholet listening to this music by this ancient band. They're called TLC. It was about waterfalls. I don't get it. No. Anyways, all right, so Laura suggested this. Wally is going to reach over and grab a handful of monster muck, and he's going to look at Laura and go, "You sure this is what you want to do?"
No, but I realize that we have less than a minute before something probably happens, and I am justifying it as if we, what? You can't.
You can always run.
No, Laura's not running. This is her baby, and she wants to figure out how badly it's messed up. I don't know. Yes.
Do you think maybe I mean, that elevator, it can only be so big, right? So maybe when whatever it is comes out, we overpower it and we just take the elevator and investigate? I mean, decorating ourselves in monster bits. I would just hate to see for, your pores to be ruined for weeks,
At this point, Shutley starts rubbing monster bits all over himself, and he stations the suits of armor by the elevator, and he checks his equipment for anything useful that might come up.
All right, go ahead and check your direct messages on Discord.
David is going to start rubbing the monster muck on him as well, and is going to also ask if anyone can get his back.
I pull out some vials of old ectoplasm that I have.
All right, you do.
I carefully take the lid off of one of them.
You pop the cork off, and you get a faint whiff of death.
Oh boy.
Ooh.
Sholay, go ahead and make an Arcana check. Wally, you do see him doing this, and you yourself do have vials as well.
Sorry, what?
Sholay,
17.
Sholay, you do recognize this smell and the scenario in which case you obtained these vials of ectoplasm being from spiders that were along the coast of the river Styx before you fought Yorick down in the cave. You do recognize this as a ferociously vicious monster smell. It is quite almost burns your nose hairs when you whiff it and waft it, as you do since you're a chemist. You gingerly waft it towards your nose, and even so, it does still singe the tips of your hair inside. It is definitely one of the rankest smells you've ever had, and you suspect as you pull the vial away from your nostrils, you can't smell anything else in the entire room.
Does Wally smell it when it's opened?
Everybody smells it when it's open.
What is that? Forget the monster guts. A little bit of that will definitely camouflage us. No need for wall paint. And then he looks around, sees David and Chole already painted, and goes, "Sorry, lads. Appreciate the enthusiasm, but it looks like, you don't have to do that."
Walk over and hand Laura the vial. There you go.
It's about test tube size.
Oh boy. Laura dumps about half of it into her hand.
All right. As you recognize that you're starting to pour it towards your hand, you get the faint whiff of something very, very acidic.
Oh, that's bad.
And corrosive. Are you sure you want to do that?
No.
Laura's going to count to 5 for the rest of the journey.
I don't know. How do you... I guess we could just hold... Oh.
Should we just put this in the room? Like, we could just smash it in front of the entrance.
Chole has a fantastic idea.
Okay.
I definitely don't think they'll see us coming.
I take aim towards the entrance of where the elevator will be. Where the entrance of the elevator would be, and I huck the vial at it.
All right, the vial explodes on the doorway, the doors of death, and since nobody really investigated the doors themselves, I already told somebody. It does impact and explode. The ectoplasm seems to be crawling over the surface of it, rolling to the edges, and then tinges from its bright, vibrant, neon, translucent green to a dark gray and black. It sizzles for a moment. The visual splatter of the ectoplasm on the walls disappears over the next couple of seconds, but the smell remains, and it is entirely overpowering of the remaining monster viscera, the blood, the guts, the sweat, everything else that you've smelt in this room so far.
If anyone needs to vomit before the elevator gets here, now would be the time.
You do hear a ding as it reaches 11. Laura asks aloud.
Because we're just standing there in front of the doors.
David's going to, even though...
Anybody got a trap they could put in front of that door of some kind?
Let me check your character sheet, actually. You might have a spell.
Well, while Laura's doing that, David is going to get not in front of the doors, even though he's covered in the monster guts, and there's this other smell going on. He doesn't want to be in front of the doors. He does not want to be the first thing the elevator occupants see.
Where do you go, David?
David's going to go off to the right.
Alright, so you do know that the doorway itself is pressed against the wall that was behind it. So you can go either to the left or to the right. It is in the center forwardmost portion of the room. You can choose to go to either side of it or wherever else you'd like.
David's going to go to like the right side of the door.
Okay. I'm going to make sure I dictate that.
Wally would like to, as quickly as possible, start pulling out of his tool belt tiny springs, curved pieces of metal, and nails, and assembling them into basically bear traps, but MacGyvered versions, and just putting as many little ones down in front of the elevator door as he possibly can before the elevator arrives.
Alright, what kind of traps are you making in particular?
Well, it's like he gets U-shaped flat pieces of metal, like you could find for any number of contraptions, because they're pretty tiny and they're pretty versatile. And he then pins the two U-shapes together, and then he attaches nails around the outside of the U-shapes. And then he puts springs on the inside of the U-shapes and sets it up so that the moment that anyone steps on the plate on the inside of the U-shapes, they snap shut and nails hit them. And they're tiny, but he makes as many little mousetrap-sized bear traps as he possibly can.
And out of what metal do you do this?
Whatever the tool belt gives me, basically, because I'm just going for odd bits and ends. It's really just like he's fidgeting because he's nervous, and if pull, he's going to throw it down, but if it's not, he'll just disassemble it and throw it back in the belt. Right. You and maybe the dice will tell me how successful this goes.
Make a charisma saving throw.
Charisma saving throw. First decent roll of the night, but my charisma, on the other hand. Back to the character sheets. Back to life. Oh, it's still a +2. All right. Well, then that's an 18.
Nice.
Ooh.
So you managed to withdraw from your pouch some very thin metal wire that you identify to be celestial bronze. You get some thumbtacks, some nails, some other odds and ends, some thicker, some thinner, some longer, some shorter. Some of the filaments themselves do have some knotted and tied ends, but eventually you manage to construct a rudimentary and very spur-of-the-moment, in under 30 seconds, small bear trap-esque contraption. Where do you place it?
Close to where the elevator doors will open. You mentioned a bunch of celestial bronze thumbtacks. Do I still have a handful of those?
You did use most of them that you pulled out, but you could also pull more out. However,
okay.
as you're finishing your construction of it, you recognize that the finger that is the indication for where the timer is on the clock is approaching 12, and you have but maybe 6 more seconds. So you have a whole turn of combat to use before the creatures arrive, if any creatures arrive.
Okay. So here's what I'm gonna try and do at the last possible second.
You said it.
I'm gonna reach with my mind for the belt and Kirby, and just ask them both to see who gives it first for a corked vial of nitroglycerin and a mason jar.
You would recognize that your belt does not reply to your requests, only your fingers intruding into it. So Kirby spits it out.
Kirby spits out both?
Kirby spits out a cork, a vial, and then what appears to be almost a gelatinous glow stick of nitroglycerin. And a mason.
Gelatinous glow stick. Gelatinous glow stick. What's it made of? Is it going to break on contact, or is it not in something glass?
It does feel to be a very thin plastic, almost a very thin saran wrap that has plastic covers on the tops and bottoms of it to help maintain its rigid structure.
Okay, then in the last 6 seconds before the elevator arrives, I will put the vial inside the mason jar. I will dump however many celestial bronze tacks I've been able to get in the time that's left on top of it, and then I will hold that mason jar in my hand gingerly as possible and wait for those elevator doors to open.
Alright, so where do you choose to move to? Because currently you stand in front of the rightmost door with your trap in front of you.
The seam for the doors, and about 15 feet back from the doors, because I don't know how big the elevator is in terms of space, and I want to make sure that when I throw this, it is the back of the elevator that I hit with it. And therefore, only monsters that get hit by this, because Celestial Bronze will mess me up too if I'm too close.
With this in mind, you and David would both have a moment where your eyes and eye met, where David would look at you and recognize that since the doorway itself is 10 feet wide and at least 10 feet tall, and since it's against the wall of the Celestial Suite itself, it appears to be merged with the woodworking that's behind it. He has, and you have, no guesses as to exactly how deep this is.
Right.
It could be 5 feet, it could be 2 people coming at it at a time, but the only dimensions you have is height and width. You have no depth so far.
Well, I mean, I'm 15 feet back from the doors, and I could probably throw it accurately up to 30, somewhat accurately up to 60, so here's hoping that I'm close enough to pull this off. David, have you ever seen Wally build a grenade from scratch before in all the time that you've known him?
I don't think he's ever seen Wally.
He builds a lot of shit from scratch, though. Never just walked up to Wally and said, "Hey, I need something that blows up," and he's just been like, "Dick, dick, 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 dick. Here's something that'll blow up. Just don't be near it when it does."
I don't feel
you
like...
probably suspect it looks a lot like the Greek fire.
Okay, so you've seen things in jars before that explode and go boom. Just making sure. I just didn't want to accidentally have David go charging into the elevator. Thing goes off.
No, David probably would have seen, explosions and stuff like that. David would not want using homemade
You would probably
grenades or
see
anything
how
like
Wally
that.
was holding it with 2 fingers away from his body and go, "That's not good."
Well, David would probably be more like, well, I can't get up in someone's face and use that because it will hurt me. But I like to hit the things, so why would I just throw that and hope it hits when I could run up and hit them?
Oh yeah, I'm not handing it to you. I was just clarifying that when I throw this, ooh, fire.
Yeah, no, like David would have knowledge of it, of like, well, I know what they can do, I've just never used one because I just don't want to use it. It's
All
not
right.
for me.
All
But
right.
I've seen other
We're
Wally-
getting
people
too
use it.
meta. Our dungeon master kill us.
Wally, before you get too far with this, Laura does turn to you and say that I do have a spell I can use. I do have a glyph of warding, so that way you don't have to throw the mason jar. If you put it down, I can cast a spell to trigger an explosion to happen in the area and trigger your device without you having to throw it or any of us be near it.
I'm gonna. Is Laura not there?
Laura's making food presently.
Oh, okay. Well, I would then look back at her and say, "There's a good chance that it'll be a while before we get the chance to rest. Maybe saving your spells would be the better bet. Besides, I've got a jar full of boom here, and we have no idea how much evil is in that elevator. If anything's still standing, you're welcome to nuke it as you please. But
Well, Wally, I'm casting the spell because they have taken what I love and hold dear, and I want them to pay, and I want it to hurt. So I'm going to cast my glyph, and if you put your trap there or near it, you can have it trigger at the same time and not have to miss, because I'm definitely doing this.
wait, and did you say not have to miss? Is that what she just said?
Yes. You wouldn't throw it, so there's no like, oh, the door's open, and wow, she's so pretty because she's a harpy. Or wow, she looks like this person I used to know because she's a ghost or a maniac.
But would it automatically detonate right at the entrance to the elevator?
It would trigger when I specify it would trigger. So I set my glyph, I cast the spell, I set the trigger for it, what causes it to trigger, and when. I'm talking.
I mean, all right,
You're
sure. So as I see the glyph start to form on the floor, I'll put the mason jar in the middle of it very carefully.
So Laura, she bites the tip of her finger and presses it into the ground and starts to draw a owl shape. She puts a couple of incense down into the area, lights them as fast as she can, gets some powdered, very sparkly dust out of her pack, and sprinkles it around into the area. And you recognize this to be a very incredibly rushed job, while she has but 30 seconds to do it, and the remaining 6 seconds before the elevator doors open. She manages to scatter it around, draw the eyes and the ears, the wings of the owl that she's familiar with. And before she finishes the material and somatic components of it, she says, really, really make it hurt. Wait until there's maybe 2 sets of feet on here, and then strike. So with that, you recognize that the energy flows from her into the ground, into the material components she has scattered about. The incense themselves do snuff themselves out for a moment and fall to the floor expent, and you see a very faint outline of, in this still red dim light, a silver light on the floor. Almost like track lights.
Well, I'm definitely going to put the jar at the point of the glyph that is the absolute closest to the door of the elevator, because if anyone's still standing in the elevator when this thing goes off, based on the first people who exited it, I would like to hit most of them, not just the first people.
All right. So the diameter that she cast this at is 20 feet.
So I'm going to put it at the back of the glyph, right near where the door is going to open.
Yes, I just want to make sure I specify from the DM's perspective to David, Laura, and Wally, and Shotley's 2 knights, and Shotley and Jack.
Get 20 feet away, yeah.
The distance and radius of this spell. Because Laura would also turn around and say, all right, leave the celestial suite. And start to make gesturing motions like a tour guide would.
It's bigger than that, though, right? It's bigger than 20 feet. We could stand outside the glyph, right?
You could, but it's going to be 20 feet centered around just outside the front of the elevator itself. So you suspect that the plane that is the spell's surface area might not need to be a material floor that's there. So she centered it on the doorway, so it does exceed 10 feet inward towards the celestial area. David, based off of where you specified you were, I'm reiterating and making sure I emphasize this so you can say that you back up further to not be hurt.
I also said that after I set all my traps, I backed up 15 feet, so I'm good, right?
You then said you walked in to put the jar down.
Yeah, okay. So after putting the jar down, back up 15 feet? Good? Or do I need more than that?
I'd recommend more, but that's up to you.
David is also going to move away until he's in a safe space, like far enough away that he's okay.
All right, I'm
I'm
moving
gonna
20 feet,
reposition
but
or my knights to what the distance would be.
Alright, so Cholet, you move your knights to the appropriate distance. Wally, you recognize that Jack is trying to stand side by side with you, but he's standing now just so slightly behind you, looking over your shoulder. Cholet, where are you standing? You look behind you, you see Wally and Jack are in the hallway. Laura is off to the left-hand side. David is off to the right-hand side of the Celestial Suite. Cholet, your two knights are in front of you on either side of the door, but 15 feet back.
I'm gonna move up with Wally, but tell my knights to stay there.
I'm going to look at Jack, who's standing behind the only dwarf in the group, and go, wow, you've become rather a cowardly little bitch, haven't you?
Oh.
You quickly look over towards Jack, recognize that his eyes gleam with a golden hue of his father, and says, I am an NPC presently. I dare not challenge me.
Fair enough. It's just like
His eyes fade back to gold, and he's like, what was that? Sorry, I mean, I can stand in front of you if you want. You're the one using the last 6 seconds to do as much of a miracle followed by another miracle that you can and then run back. I chose here first.
No. That's you go an excellent point there. I mean, you know, the sort of tinker always done every year for the last 150 years would certainly be an absolute goal at this point in time.
I mean, we have the option to hide. Why aren't we just hiding? Why are we trying to fight this? There might be a small army that comes through here. And with that comment, you do hear, ding!
I felt it coming.
Yeah.
Oh, Jack is just not. He's not who he was, and it shows. He's probably gonna die soon. Again.
All right. With that, I need everybody to please roll initiative.
I'm gonna roll for Jack.
Yeah, sure. You can roll for Jack if you want. I'm just gonna play some more if I feel necessary.
There's Jack. And there's Laura.
Nice.
I actually liked trash talking Jack a little bit because, you know, for the first 2 seasons, it was all about the golden the camps and.
Well, it still would be about the golden boy if he showed up for sessions.
Stop.
Not my problem.
But my point is, even without all of that, for the first 2 seasons, it was like, he's gonna unite us, terrorist, and now all of a sudden it's like, well, we did everything the way that he wanted to for 2 seasons, and the world's still being invaded, and everyone's still dying. All right, well, I guess now we'll just go to Hearst Castle and blow some shit up. And he's just like, hide behind the dwarf. Man, you're a little bitch.
He was standing over your shoulder because you're short and he can shoot over you. You can choose where you go. He picked first.
Yeah, okay. You're going to give me crap for trying to perform a bunch of miracles in 6 seconds and then say that the guy who stood behind me when it was all done did what he did beforehand?
Well, he was standing there watching.
Doing nothing.
Okay, so then when I finish my 2 miracles, I stand right in front of him.
Okay. Ding. Okay. Now what?
Exactly. That's a freaking teenager.
Thanks, Laura.
Come on, boys, let's go.
She's just reminding us that we're all about to die.
Let's get Cholet. What did you roll, Cholet?
24, baby.
Oh god.
Oh,
You
That's
rolled
a nat 20 with my +4 initiative.
must be nice being in them double-digit numbers.
Oof.
Chotle murders everything. That's the new episode title.
All
The
right,
rest of
so
us just stand there and watch.
let's get a blow by blow. The immediate seconds to as the doors open up. Chotle, what do you have in your hands? What are you feeling?
I don't have anything in my hands. I wait to see the doors open.
All right, Laura, what's in your hands? What do you have ready? You just finished casting a spell, so you cast a glyph of warding. I drew it down.
Oh, okay.
What do you arm yourself with? Do you? Where do you go? What do you do?
I'm assuming I'm still holding that vial that
Yeah,
Shortly gave me.
as he threw the other one at the door. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
I'm
then
just
gave
saying,
you
now
perfect
hold it.
camouflage to then hide in the closet and not care. But no,
But no, I did do something else.
you cast a glyph of warding because Wally's like, let's make traps.
Okay. Yeah.
Wally, I love you.
Thanks, man.
Oh, and there I am. Okay. I guess I will just do the same as Shortly and see what
I don't know.
happens. When the
I
doors
mean, if
open.
the Dungeon Master allows you to arm yourself before combat instead of spending 3 points to arm yourself in combat,
Well, do I have to do anything?
I mean, I would take the opportunity to arm myself for combat.
I mean-
I'll get my bow ready.
Alright, that's why I asked if
Okay. I wasn't sure if it was like a, well, you didn't have your bow ready, and like, well, I didn't. You're right. I didn't.
I'm trying
was
not
too
to be
busy-
a
I was-
dick about it. Give you the
I was
time.
trying to figure out what my party members were trying to do as the elevator was about to open.
See, now that's why David, before we came in here, pulled out the anchor.
What are you doing, Laura?
Well,
Snapping.
got the open vial in one hand. I guess does she have the stopper for said vial?
Yeah, you whipped it.
Great. Yep. Almost spilled it on my hands.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so I will record that. Put it in my backpack and
Ooh, free vial.
get out the mechanical pencil that was the axe, big axe. I
Nice.
will just have that mechanical pencil out. Don't know how to work it. Don't know what it does.
You've used it a couple times. You twist it, pull it apart, activate it.
I've used it as a pencil. But
Yeah.
That's it.
You've also recognized how it turned into and out of an axe.
All right. I will just have.
I mean, you're not going to
Have
reach
it
into
out.
your pocket, find a pen, uncap it, and it suddenly, surprisingly turn into a sword.
Why not?
What kind of a story would this be?
Okay. I'll just have
An
the
awesome
mechanical
one?
pencil out. Like I don't do anything with it. It's just gonna be out.
Alright.
Okay.
Yes, Laura. The one armed with the pencil.
Yes. Fear me.
You should, though. You really should, though. She will
Alright.
fire you to death.
Jack, over the top of Wally, pulls out his bow staff and points it forward, says, I got one last spell in me, and I still got a couple of lightning bolts. So, Wally, I suspect you stay as low as you can.
This will go on your permanent record, says Laura.
I mean, if we all focus fire towards the middle of it, that might be best.
I mean, I'm not necessarily trying to make sure that the elevator works again. I was just trying to, take care of anything coming out of it. That's why our traps, and I point at me and Laura, our traps involve spiking all the things coming out with thumbtacks that will kill them to death, or glyphing them in a way that does not inhibit the structural integrity of the elevator.
Oh, Laura's
Of course,
blowing that
Lightning
shit
Boy.
up. Laura's glyph is not going to incapacitate people.
I am.
Or humanoids. Laura put, like, the biggest gun she had
Oh.
loaded and pointed at the door.
Alright. Well,
But at the door or at whatever comes out of the door?
At the door, which hopefully will hit anything in the door. It casts from the floor up.
okay.
Okay. I thought it was meant for life forms. I didn't realize that she was casting a spell that would actually, like, already destroy the elevator. Oh, my bad.
Wally also
all right.
wouldn't know, so that's even better.
No,
Neither
yeah,
does
fair
Laura
enough.
now.
No. You're gonna have
Fair enough. All right, so here we are waiting for doors to open. That just went ding.
All right, Wally,
my-
what do you have ready? Sorry, I'm trying to get.
Well, I mean, my hammer's out, but, you know. And my hammer has, you know, obviously been cleaned since I sifted it out of mimic guts.
Nice. I'm trying not to talk too much with my mouth full of this awesome sandwich
No, you're
my
chilling.
wife made me. Thank you.
sandwich.
Yeah. So my hammer's ready, and you know, the jar is in its spot, and I am back away from the jar far enough that, you know, I'm absolutely sure that the celestial bronze shrapnel bomb that I have created cannot hit me. You know, in fact, you know, we're in a room, so it's torn to bits. I'm sure there's like an overturned table or something that Wally can stand mostly behind and just have his hammer and just look over at Jack and be like, "Why are you still hiding?"
Laura, do you do that?
No. Grabs back by the collar, just holds it in front of her.
All right, Laura reaches over as Wally ducks behind the table, passes by shortly, grabs Jack by the collar, pulls him over into her side, puts him right in front of her.
In front of her, I like it.
Stand here for me, please.
Yeah, Operation Jupiter Shield.
I'm just gonna put the plate.
Oh, okay. It's like, please don't leave. I don't know what I'm doing.
All right.
Yeah, mark that down. Jack is now in front of me.
You're right. I gotta redraw the battle map.
Edit the map. Okay. Taking Jack down with me.
All right, Wally, you find a small section of overturned furniture. It was previously a medium-sized writing desk, but now, since it's been shattered into mostly individual pieces, you're managing to plank it together in a way that provides you with a +2 to armor class temporarily while you're behind it from ranged attacks.
Nice.
David, you have your anchor out and ready, right?
I do.
Your invisible diving suit will hopefully protect you from all of my thumbtacks.
We can only hope.
Yeah, but that only happens when I go all ragey.
But I thought it was like invisible even when you didn't. Oh,
It was
okay,
invisible while he raged.
Oh, gotcha. I was just imagining he was in it and he just hears it.
We will find out. All right. Ding! As the elevator, with the last 6 seconds that seemed to take way longer than it should have.
Turkey's done.
Finally, I finish eating my sandwich. And you watch as the doors themselves seem to beat twice more with a heartbeat. Doo-doo. Doo-doo. And the doors themselves open outward towards you. And red mist pours out the bottom through the intricate interior, the middle seam as well. Starts to envelop and pour out through the center. And you hear a clop, 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 clop. As the sound of centaur hoof prints come forward. You look about and you hear the signs of struggle just out of view as the doors are shut. As you hear one centaur being strangled. You're not able to see what's strangling it, but you're able to hear it for sure. It's like as it's choking. And Wally, you recognize the sound of this choking voice.
I had a feeling I would.
As the clop, 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 clop subsides for but a moment, you hear the huge thumping of a horse-like body upon the floor. You see a cyclops mounting from a rear choke onto it. And as the doors finish opening, you see that Daniel, David, you recognize him, is sitting on top of the centaur, on top of Chiron, choking him out, fighting, as both their eyes seem to have this red sheen over the top of them. And they are fighting with all that they can. Chiron reaches into his belt and tries to stab upwards at Daniel. And it's at that exact point that Laura's glyph goes off.
Oh.
So, Laura, go ahead and roll damage.
Okay.
No.
Don't worry, your glyph will ignite a shrapnel bomb. definitely kill him. Don't.
I gave you the option to hide. I gave everybody numerous hints to hide.
They
So-
were possessed, but now they're powder.
They
Alright,
might be, they
so
might not be.
Since Laura cast an explosive rune on the area, when triggered, the glyph erupts with magical energy in a 20-foot radius sphere centered on the glyph. The sphere spreads around corners. Each creature in the area must make a dexterity saving throw. So I will roll for Chiron and for Daniel.
3 and a 12.
So they both fail. And they are going to take 5d8 damage. Laura, you get to choose acid, cold, fire, lightning, or thunder damage.
Okay.
You probably don't want acid or fire because that'll damage the surroundings.
No.
Cold, lightning, thunder.
We'll go cold.
Cold. Nice choice. Alright, so here's 2d8. Wally, you have your own method of damage that you're delivering as well. So you also deal 5d8 fire damage and 2d8 poison damage. Sorry, not poison damage, piercing damage.
So,
Do you
so
give me the
78
final
altogether.
Here, take this.
27.
Alright.
I did.
They're going to see if they can pass a dexterity saving throw for Wally. Wally, I rolled a 20 and a 1. Which one do you like better? Do you like Daniel or do you like Chiron?
I'm sorry, what?
I rolled a
I will
20
be
and
right
a
back
1.
in a second.
I'm letting
My
you
laptop
choose.
wigged out.
I'm going to go ahead and say that Chiron is the one who survives this because he's being mounted by something much larger than.
All right. So Chiron will take half damage from the 5d8 explosive damage dealt, while Daniel takes the full brunt of it.
Wasn't
Ow.
it 78 because it was 5 explosive and 2 piercing?
Correct.
Oh, God. And
Was
that's the
Dan-
part that really scares me is because there are 78s. Do the math. The maximum damage possible is 56. You want to know what I rolled?
What's your
Check the
roll?
chat.
Was Daniel raging at the time?
He was, but since it's cold damage and not fire damage or non-magical sources of damage, he takes the full brunt of it. But he will
Dun,
take
dun.
half damage from the piercing damage. So, Wally, for the 2d8 that you rolled for the piercing damage that I know you rolled separately, what did you roll for the two of those?
Those were a 1 and a 3, actually.
Nice.
So that's the best part, if that's what you took.
So he took 42 points of damage because he's raging.
Oh,
And
God.
Chiron took 22 points of damage as
Oh,
he
God.
rolled incredibly well on his dexterity saving throw.
Oh, God,
So
that grenade.
in the split second that they crumpled to the ground trying to fight and strangle and stab each other, Chiron took 49 points of damage.
There, Swiss cheese.
And Daniel took 69 points of damage.
He did.
Nice.
Yeah.
My only good damage rolls of the night, and it's on possessed people.
Alright. Let me
We'll
double
find
check.
real enemies in a second. It'll just be like, you took 1 point of fire damage. He coughs and keeps coming.
Alright. So, Daniel is going to make a wisdom saving throw. Laura's rolling for me. Nope. And Chiron's going to make a wisdom saving throw. Yep. Alright, so Chiron apparently gets all the crits from Laura.
Yep.
He survived?
Yeah,
Yay!
both of them did survive.
Both survived?
Yes. You notice that Chiron's eyes change from this bright, vibrant, piercing red hue. The mist that was pouring out of the area stops pouring out of his mouth and nostrils. stops pouring out of his eyes and ears, and he stops having this red steam flow off of him. And for a moment, the steam stops being emitted, and he looks about, completely confused for a moment, and then looks back at the fingers that are pressed around his neck from the Cyclops, and they are both simultaneously scattered inside of the elevator. You recognize now that the elevator itself is much deeper than you thought. It goes on for about 20 feet inward. However, they were the only two on there.
Oh,
So with that, they're exploded, scattered, and definitely hurt by the shrapnel and concussive and cold forces that activated the area. David, you recognize Daniel is still raging, and you notice as he is laying on his back, the red steam still pours off of him, emitting from him like fresh out of a sauna or a hot shower, just steaming off of him. Wally, you notice that Chiron does not have red fumes coming off of him the same way Daniel does. And Chiron, as soon as he's able to cock his head up and crack it back into place, looks over and examines the room. And he sees not very much, seeing as he doesn't have dark vision. He looks about and sees the knights first around him, and looks around and sees two suits of armor, draws out his long pike, and starts to ready his aim towards the one that's closest to him on his left side, the one that does not have its shield anymore. And he says, "Stay back!" I recommend you look up. Cholet, somebody is trying to accost your knights. Do you say or do anything?
I tell my knights to pull back and hold on.
I look at,
sir! As they take more of a defensive posture towards you.
I yell at Sharon, whoa, relax there, horse. They're with Dead Man over there. And I
Hi,
point at
Sharon.
Chole. I point at Chole and wait for his eyes to focus and realize who it is he's actually with.
All right, David.
Yep.
Go ahead and make a persuasion roll with advantage.
Ooh.
Hi, Chiron. I like that the meme version is what worked.
All right, let me get my second D20 for that. There we go. Eh. All right, where's that? You said persuasion. That's going to be a 16.
All right. Let's continue with David's persuasion. Is that David?
Hello. It's in the chat.
Indeed it is. David, your head pokes out just a little bit as you see Chiron's eyes wildly spinning, looking left and right, back and forth. And in that precise moment, Daniel, still emanating this red aura, jumps up and tackles Chiron again, pinning him to the ground. And that's where we pick up our initiative order. Cholet, you're first.
Somebody slapped that gigantic one eye.
Okay.
But don't kill him.
So, Cholet, are you familiar with how many ability points you start with, sir?
Yes, I start off with 29 minus 10, which would be 19.
That is correct, sir. You start with 19. You are already armed with your bow, right?
I'm gonna go ahead and tell my knights to subdue the one-eye on top of the horse.
Yes, sir. We will subdue the one-eyed one. The one closest to David draws its sword and points it towards him. The other knight starts to proceed towards Chiron, sword and shield at the ready.
I point at the one that's next to David. Like, no, the other one-eyed one.
Ah, yes, sir. Right you are, as always, sir. You see he adjusts his trajectory towards the elevator, towards Daniel, using 2 points to command that. You have 17 remaining.
I look at Wally and just take him down or knock him out.
I look at Biggin. Take him down or knock him out?
I just love how everybody like turns their head, talks to somebody, turns their head, talks to somebody, turns their head, talks to somebody.
I mean, we're looking at David here, man. This. Oh.
Just knock him out. Don't kill him.
You heard the big man.
Looks back towards Wally. Looks back towards Cholet.
Cholet sighs and pulls out his sword and starts running towards towards him.
All right,
It's time for the Hades double tap, y'all.
You expend 3 points moving into melee range with Daniel.
I'm gonna try to use the hilt of my sword and just get a straight hit to the face.
All right, go ahead and make an attack roll. Since he's prone on top of your ally, you have advantage on this attack roll. Do you have any class features that would also be applicable here?
Yes, I would assume I have sneak attack since I do have an ally within bonus range. And I don't believe he has taken any turns yet, so my assassinate feat would also proc.
Correct. So you have advantage on the attack rolls, and if you hit, you have a critical.
Okay.
And that's for every hit.
Alright, so it's going to be a 14 to hit. Plus my to hit bonus, which would be proficiency. So that'd be a 17 to hit.
That hits.
Okay.
So do you know the weapon damage of your sword?
One long sword. I believe does 1d8, but I don't know if that's slashing. Damage would change.
I think it has a +8 to bitch slaps, doesn't it?
Definitely no bitch.
You would know that your longsword deals 1d8 slashing damage. However, it is versatile, so if you want to wield it with 2 hands, it would do 1d10, and you could choose to, if you wish, deal non-lethal damage.
Yeah, I'm going to go and do non-lethal damage.
Just slap.
So make sure you deal 2d10 for your weapon damage, and roll your dice for your sneak attack twice. So that would be 2d10 plus 6d6 damage.
Alright, it's going to be a 12 for the 2d10. Plus, and you said 6? 3d6?
Yep.
3d6?
It's 3d6 twice. So you can either roll 3d6 and double it, or roll 6d6. Because if you roll a 1, a 1, a 1, I'm going to say you can roll the other 3 die if you want. But if you roll a 6, a 6, and a 6, we can just double it.
Alright, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and... Yeah, I feel risky today. I'm going to roll it. I'm going to roll it twice.
Washington 6 and 1.
Alright, so it's going to be an 16 for the 2d6 plus a 12 for the sword. So So it's gonna be 28 total without any crit damage.
So you deal 2d10 weapon damage.
Yeah,
And
which
you
was
deal
12 total.
66 sneak attack damage.
66
Yeah.
sneak attack, yes.
So what did you roll for the 66?
16.
Alright, so you deal a whopping 28 points of damage, plus your dexterity modifier, which is +4,
Mm-hmm.
which is 32 points of damage, halved to 16 to Daniel. Alright.
And that's no crit modifiers, correct?
That is the crit. So the crit is double damage.
Okay.
So we can either double the dice that you roll for regular weapon damage, or you roll the damage twice.
Got it. Okay.
That is 5 points. You use 2 points talking. You use 3 points moving. And you use 5 points attacking. You have 7 points remaining.
I want to look at Daniel, see if he looks any more or less groggy than usual.
He's going to make a wisdom saving throw.
He's still standing?
Still standing. Still
Holy
steaming
shit.
red.
Oh,
Still trying
shit.
to wrap his arms in a half Nelson over the top of Chiron's thick, meaty body. You would know that Cyclopses are quite hard to knock down. Especially since you've been traveling with David for quite a while. And even after he was filled with holes, he still lifted a rhino, carried it out of a building, and hucked it into the middle of the park.
I mean, that was mostly due to the fact that he reacts like a shrink-a-dink, pour water on him.
There's a number of reasons. So you still see that Daniel is acting aggressively towards an ally.
You know what? I'm just gonna take another swing at him.
Alright, go ahead and make your attack. You also have advantage on this attack.
Alright, it's gonna be 20 to hit.
20 does hit. You do not get
Alright.
sneak attack for this hit.
Okay. I will roll my 1d10 for damage.
You get 2d10 for this one, sir.
2d10.
Or 1d10 doubled. Whatever you prefer.
Yeah, I'm just gonna get 1d10 doubled. So, come on. Alright. 12.
Nice. With that, he's going to make another subsequent saving throw. Nope. Still seems completely infatuated with strangling Chiron. His rage is preventing him from taking too much damage at any given time, so it's definitely preventing a lot of the ability of, say, somebody else trying to resist the effects that have been cast upon him. You have 2 points remaining, Cholet.
Good. I'm just gonna yell back at the group, be like, he's not going down, and then bank the rest of my points.
Alright. Retreat! Laura, you're up.
Oh, jeez. Right, I might need your help with this one.
Followed by Jack on deck. Do you have that spell on your spell list?
Yes. Right.
Alright. So, he needs to make a wisdom saving throw against it. He needs to be within 60 feet of it. And you have to issue him a verbal command and expend 5 points doing so.
Yep.
So, as you channel the energy to cast the spell, you reach out forward towards him and you say something to him to cast the spell.
Yep.
What do you say to him?
I'm going to use this one. I'm going to say grovel.
Alright. So, you are familiar with Cyclops as having an immense source of pride. And in particular, you suspect he might have resistance to choosing that feature in particular, but you could definitely still try.
I'll still try because it's one of the ones listed.
Sure. Alright, so he's going to roll with advantage against that.
Okay. I'm going to roll both.
Yeah. Roll 2d20. And he's going to have a -2 against it. Alright. So despite his unsophisticated technical capabilities and huge, immense source of pride in his heart for himself, for his culture, for his family, he looks up at you as you cast this spell at him, and he stops strangling Chiron. His fingers release the tension and strength to them. He then puts his hands on the ground, still emanating this red aura, gets and dismounts off of Chiron, puts his four-fingered hands flat on the elevator floor, pounds his forehead into it, and you hear a small squish of his eye as he hits. And says, "I'm so sorry. Please don't hurt me. I'm so sorry." That's what you're going to do.
Yeah.
You do have 12 points remaining.
Okay. I'm gonna stay behind Jack, but I'm just gonna
Just pop out from around the corner.
I am.
Grovel, bitch!
I'm gonna stay behind Jack, but say like, it's okay, but we need you to stop strangling Chiron.
And since you are now persuading to do that, please make a persuasion.
Okay. Oh no.
So good. Alright. I mean, he's gonna make a wisdom saving throw against it, and he rolled the same number. He's gonna look up at you, pulling his eye off the floor, and you notice that it is bloodshot. The central iris in it does still have the familiarity, the soft brown hue of chocolate inside of it that you recognize to be Daniel inside of it. Does look up at you, even though it is still shaded and covered with this red hue and still pouring this red smoke off the top of him. He says, "I am compelled to fight this one." And he points down at Chiron and then puts his face down to continue groveling. You have 10 points remaining.
Okay, I'm just gonna ask him why. What's compelling you?
To which he then looks up at you and says, "I must grovel at your feet and beg for forgiveness."
Okay.
Because you know, based off your spell, he is to compel with your command, and your command was to grovel.
Right, for 1 round.
For 1 round. So this is still the same round.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why he's still continuing to grovel.
Okay.
Or move.
Yeah, I'll just...
Which, this is why Dungeons and Dragons has the actions, bonus actions, and movement. So that way, if you want this succeeded, and then you're like, well, I don't know what else to do, this is what I want to do.
Yep. Okay, I'll do that.
Alright, you bank the rest of your points.
Great.
The remaining... So 5 to cast it, 2 to talk, 2 to talk. So you would bank the remaining 8 points. Jack's up. Jack looks back at you and whispers, trying to get your attention, and I'm going to stage whisper so everybody else can hear it. Do I lightning bolt him now? I'm kind of really good at one thing. Do I do it, or do we talk to him?
He's...
Fuck it, I'm doing it.
Okay.
Points out his finger and casts his lightning bolt and says, "By Jupiter!" And from his ring, you notice that the electricity sparks and sprouts throughout his hand and extends from the point of his fingertip and strikes Daniel dead in the eye for a moment. And he shivers in response and is completely shocked by it. 68.
11.
Sorry, I found a good one.
Alright, with this... Sorry, I guess Laura wants the Dungeon Master to cut back to the Discord. I like David. My persuasion skills are perfect. These 6 fish! Yes. I have not seen that before.
Really?
Sorry, I'm trying to give a blow-by-blow as you... If I find one that's just too on
I need to
point.
use that in Salt Marsh, you say?
Oh god.
All right. For this, since he has sustained such a huge amount of damage from this, he's going to make a Wisdom saving throw with advantage.
With advantage. I don't want to die.
With this, he does succeed against it. If you're interested in knowing the calculation for it, it is a concentration check made by a character that is not present, utilizing the willpower and wisdom of the creature that has received the dominate creature spell cast upon it. So
AKA, you don't want to die.
exactly. So with this, you notice that his body starts to shiver and still jolt about on the ground as he then lays on the floor, rolls over onto his back, and starts to spasm and foam at the mouth as he still, after the magic dissipates and electricity stops shocking across his fingertips, and after his fingers and hair, his hairy fingers and all the hair on his head is standing up on end. He stops moving for a moment, foam still bubbling at the mouth, and the red mist seems to disappear from his skin. He then rolls around for a moment. Chiron gasps. Wow. You have a tight grip. Please stop. I'm sorry. What's your name again, Horsey Man? Laura mimics the Horsey Man in the background. My name, my good Cyclops, is Chiron. Others call me by many different names based off the pronunciation of the character I represent in the books this is bought from. But you may call me Chiron. I don't read many books, but okay, horsey dude. He rolls over onto his stomach, puts his fingers and hands out, pushes off the ground, gets one knee underneath him, starts to stand, and then falls flat face first into the area and rug. And you notice that his face in particular impacts a section where the carpet is missing, and you hear a thump as he hits the wood.
Aww.
And he falls unconscious. I do love the Johnny Depp comment there. Chiron then ascends to his full height, getting his legs and bearing underneath him, looks about the room, and seems to snap his fingers for a second, and the gold and memorabilia and other gems that he has on his necklace around him does seem to emit a soft, dull blue light around him as he looks about. And he systematically, clockwise in the room, looks about, sees David, and sees Wally as, like, Wally's eyes just poke above the table, looking about for just a moment. He sees that, looks over at the knights, sees Jack, where the source of the lightning bolt was coming from, sees Laura and the other knight. Well, I see, you made it. It's definitely a huge fight on the other side.
The other side of what?
Down there, these are the doors of death. They ascend, and I suspect descend, straight through to Tartarus. I managed to eventually find my way through, and for the most part, blend in quite well to some of the other monsters, because I had plenty of stories to say. Oh, I hate demigods because, I trained most of them, so I know. Oh, yes, well, just for one, I would say, like, oh, yes, Hercules. I always hated Hercules. He broke this leg. And
No, right. Yeah. Sure. No, we
Yeah.
all know that. No, my question, though, is when you went into the underworld or wherever it is what was the date?
You guys had just left to go investigate a concert. I believe it was sometime in October. Probably the second week of October, if I'm not mistaken.
And I look around to the rest of the group to see if anybody else's eyes get big, as if realizing that a version of Chiron that we've been dealing with for weeks now is not the same dude who just came out of this elevator.
Wait, so you didn't ask me to leave Hearst Castle to come back to camp?
No.
And you didn't divide the camp into a Civil War style battle line based on who was from the East Coast and who was from the West Coast. That wasn't you.
No, we're all demigods. Why would I have us fight each other?
See, I knew I didn't like that guy. I knew it. And Wally just wandering the room, mumbling profanities, waiting for everyone else to decide what we're going to do about this.
I want to make sure that the Cyclops is knocked out.
You walk over, you prod him. Go ahead and make a medicine check, Shola.
While Wally mumbles profanities, I'm going to go pee. Be right back.
It's going to be a 12.
All right. You approach him, notice that he's got some burn marks, some really harsh burn marks on him. He's got a big bruise slowly appearing on top of his forehead from where your longsword hit him twice. He's got some other ulterior wounds. He's got some thick bruising around his ankles from where fingers and hands grasped at him. And he's got these other welts and marks about him that you suspect he's sustained from a very tough fight. You also see some handprints where David was like ball busting with him, with the hand-in-hand fisticuff brawling that they were doing. He seems to be breathing as well. You notice his chest rise and fall, but he's definitely out for the count right now.
I'm gonna rummage through his pockets.
Go ahead and make an investigation check.
Let's see what his life is worth to him, because that's gonna be 13 plus 3, 16.
All right, you do find a small coin purse with 13 golden drachma in it. You find behind him, trailing on his right posterior, has a sack of small rocks and a large great club as well. He also wears a loincloth, and that's about it. He's also got some cloth bracers and cloth boots that he ties about himself with rope.
I'm gonna put some of his rocks inside of his coin purse.
Okay. For this, go ahead and make a sleight of hand check to see if you can formulate the right volume and weight to try to make this Indiana Jones style switcheroo.
Well, it's pretty easy because that's gonna be dirty 20.
All right, you recognize that most of the stones he's got there are very similar shapes, so you're able to pile them and stack them nicely, so they still resemble the coin pouch that he had previously, if not just slightly heavier now. He does still also have the bits of leather scraps that he uses for boots and bracers, and a lot of rope that he has tied about himself in different areas. He does also wear a necklace that is rope with a single large gray tooth on the tip of it.
I wish to put my hands on it but not touch the tooth directly, and see if I've ever seen anything similar to this.
Roll an Arcana check. This is very particular.
Come on. Not 20, baby.
Nice.
23.
All right. You would recognize that this tooth in particular is from a dragon. Shelly's gonna want it. You know that in particular, of the types of dragons that you're familiar with a lot of the classic legend dragons. So the reds, the whites, the blues, the browns you're familiar with. Brown being copper or brass. You recognize this tooth as being a red dragon's tooth. It being a baby red dragon's tooth.
You know
Even
what?
though
I'm
it
just
is
gonna.
a baby dragon's tooth, it is still about the length of the palm of your hand.
I'm gonna go ahead and untie it and just say, you know what? Spared your life, so this is what it's gonna cost you. I'm just gonna start taking it off of him.
Put it back.
Shelley continues.
Well,
Do I
David, you're gonna
roll?
have to roleplay out this persuasion.
Do I roll sleight of hand or?
You can choose to stealth if you want, but that's mostly he's watching you do this.
No, I straight up turned back next to him like, you told me to not kill him, so this is what his life cost to me. This is what it's worth to him. At least that's what it's worth to me. And then I take a little bit longer than I should because that's going to be a 12.
You slowly untie it, and you have a baby red dragon wormling's tooth on a necklace.
I put it in my back pocket. I don't want to put it on right now. I don't know who's watching.
I'm watching.
David's just like watching.
Other than the immediate party.
Well, David
And
just
judging.
watched you accost his friend, bop him in the face twice, and steal all of his stuff. How does David
I'll
feel?
put his coins back. I'll put his drachmas back as well.
All right. Do you actually put his drachmas back?
I put his rocks back where they were, and I put his drachmas back, but I don't put the necklace back.
All right.
And I leave him with his loincloth and his club.
Well, he doesn't have a cloak, but he does have cloth that he uses to affix to himself on his feet and wrists. So you definitely leave him with his loincloth, his shoes, and torn apart gloves. And now his coin purse and rock bag where you left it, which is not a sexual joke, Laura.
What?
His boulder bag.
Okay.
His boulder bag.
David, being a Cyclops, you know that a lot of your culture revolves around what you've killed, what you fought, and keeping trophies of it. You recognize, whether it is your own or somebody else's of your culture, that this tooth might be incredibly important to David.
Cholet, give him back the tooth necklace.
Does Cholet know this as well?
I believe David might roleplay out telling you for a moment while I fetch another beverage.
If he had it, he either beat it up and made a necklace out of it, or he beat someone up who already had the necklace. It's a trophy.
I beat him up. I could take his fingers and make that a necklace. As I
Did
motion
you beat him up,
towards my
though?
sword.
You're not taking trophies from him.
I beg to differ.
Cholet.
And then I have my guards pull up next to me.
Oh boy.
He killed something, and I could have done the same. I'd feel pretty entitled to this one.
You're not taking the tooth.
I'm taking it.
It's a Cyclops thing.
Well, it's now my thing.
It is not.
David, go ahead and roll intelligence.
Oh boy.
Ooh, you said intelligence?
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be a very David roll. That is a 4.
You get the sinking suspicion that no matter how long you talk to Cholet about this, he's probably going to do whatever he wants to do anyway. And you also look up and hear ding as the elevator doors themselves start to shut and momentarily crunch the head of Daniel as it then opens back larger as the arrow above the door keeps tinging as it's trying to descend back to 0, but keeps getting stuck as the doors are trying to shut.
Wally steps forward and attempts to hold the door open and gestures inside. Going down? Or not?
What should we leave him there?
Let's get him out of the elevator.
I motioned for my knights to take him out of the elevator.
The knights,
Wally attempts to hold the door and looks back at everyone else. Are we staying in this room, going down this elevator, or leaving before I let these doors close and more people come up?
the knights reach over and drag Daniel out of the elevator. Chiron steps out of the elevator into the central chamber of the celestial suite. Wally being the only thing remaining inside the elevator, holding the doors open.
Laura turns to Chiron. Any advice you can give us before we take this thing down?
Yeah, don't go down.
Okay.
I am very tiny. Please make a decision. As
Doesn't
Wally
have to go
attempts to hold
down.
the doors open.
Did we get Daniel out of the elevator, though?
Daniel, you see, is dragged and dropped by the two knights outside.
Laura follows Wally.
Laura gets in the elevator.
Laura gets in the elevator, begrudgingly.
I thought we were just gonna
I thought we
visit
just
the
got
room
told.
and then go to that one exhibit.
I thought we just got told don't go in the elevator.
Mm-hmm.
I point to David. Yeah.
I just don't want to let these doors go and possibly summon monster reinforcements until we've decided. Right now, We got
Shirley
this
walks
fucking-
inside the elevator and looks for the emergency button that you pull.
oh, thank you for being that smart. I'm so glad someone thought of it.
And roll investigation, Shirley, to see if it exists.
I'm so glad someone thought of it. Wally wanted to do it, but he's only got 2.
Dude, I love these dice. That's gonna be a nat plus my 323.
Woo!
It's rolling
Alright.
fire tonight.
So as you walk into the elevator, you see Wally still holding the door open as it continually clang, clang, clang hits him in the backside. You walk in, tilt your head sideways looking at the control panel, and the only thing that is there shows to be an emergency lock. And it's a pull knob that is bright fuchsia.
I pull it with my mage hand.
Alright. Your mage hand grips it with 2 fingers, pulls it out, and you hear a familiar female voice come over the top. For those of you that are familiar with Hades and the storylines for who he chooses to take as a bride, you might identify this. What does Persephone sound?
Springtime.
Oh, you're gonna make a voice. Will you please do the voice? You're gonna make me be a girl?
Yep.
Okay.
Give me your best Valley Girl.
Emergency! Exit! Emergency! Entrance! Emergency! Shut off! Engaged! Emergency! Emergency!
I think
Emergency!
I'm gonna audible DM. I'm gonna call an audible. I think you can do a better Valley Girl.
Like emergency.
Thank you.
Emergency entrance. Emergency like exit. Emergency.
you.
Emergency.
Wow,
Emergency.
she's really annoying.
She should be. She's very annoyed to be where she is for the reason that she is.
Emergency. Emergency. Emergency.
Where's the speaker?
The speaker seems to be emanating
Annoying the speaker.
from near the
Laura's
control
getting a
panel.
little angry.
When he pulls the knob, does the door stop trying to close on me?
It actually locks its position. It is about 2 inches towards closing, but it is no longer touching you and has stopped.
And it's no longer moving at all. Okay, so I step away from it, making sure that it does not immediately try to close again as soon as I step away.
It does not choose to close.
And then I look around at everybody else. We don't have to take this down, but the moment we don't take it down, someone else is going to take it up. So I think if we're not going down, we should probably not be in this room when this elevator comes back up. So rescue the horseman or down into hell to find out what's going on here.
I thought this was just a pit stop.
Yeah, let's not go down the elevator.
Then I'd suggest we leave, because it doesn't seem like we're going to stop reinforcements from filling up Hearst Castle until we deal with whatever's on the other side of this elevator.
But you would have to make sure that everybody's listening. When you do
Yeah.
so.
Laura investigates the inside of the elevator and sticks her hand out, trying to see if any other magical boxes reappear for her like they did on the outside of the elevator.
As you approach and reach out your understanding towards the elevator, you recognize that the panel itself appears to be flickering in color. It goes from a bright illuminated red to a dull gray to red to gray to red to gray, flickering back and forth. You're familiar with this because you've had small children near elevators when they quickly push the button repeatedly over and over and over and over and over and over. And you suspect somewhere, probably down the line, is on the other side pushing the button over and over and over again, trying to get up or trying to recall the elevator down. When you appear and look inside of the elevator and look about, no other buttons appear for you. There's only the emergency stop. And you also get a very perturbed voice from Persephone as well, because Persephone is Hades' wife. Is that you, Laura?
Oh.
Laura, I can, smell you from here.
Rude.
You reek like your father.
Down or out? Quickly, fam.
Back out.
The moment
Laura
that
doesn't
she
wanna deal
says,
with Persephone.
the moment that she says back out, Wally steps over and examines the button console, which again only has one button. I heard you say that, but he tries to see if it's attached with screws so that he can maybe remove the panel and wire these doors to stay open and not go back down and allow any other monsters into Hearst Castle.
Despite your best efforts in investigation, you notice that the sheer stone surface has only the protrusion of the emergency stop on the entire interior of the elevator. It appears to be hewn from stone, and the entire ceiling, floor, and all of the walls, with the exception of the panel that Shelley reached in and found, I dare say materializing, an emergency stop functionality, is the only button in existence on the interior. It also does not appear to have any mechanical functionality to it, but the exterior button does.
Okay, so I examine the exterior panel to see if it can be removed and rewired so that the elevator will not recognize this floor.
All right. Go ahead and roll investigation.
Okay. Oof. That's a 13. Ugh.
You reach out and extend your understanding towards it using your Hephaestus brand intuition. You know almost as much as there is to know about any and every sort of mechanical construction that has, I dare say, ever been devised. This mechanical construction,
I
however,
met the guy who made elevators. And
you're very familiar with the functionality of it. You recognize that, however, since you only have access to the button whenever Laura's present, whenever she leaves or comes or goes or close to you, it does start to fade away, so you grab her, pull her back ever so slightly, asking her to stay within range. You notice that the button panel itself is only a button and only connects the circuit for a split second to send the signal. It doesn't have any interactions with any other components of the elevator.
All right, so again, looking around at everyone else, attempting to reiterate what Wally has said to. If we're not going to use this elevator, we need to leave this room soon. Because the moment we leave this elevator, I've no idea how long it will take them to get it working again. And I don't think we want to be standing here when they come to find out who took these two, and I gesture to the Cyclops and Chiron, away from whatever it is they wanted them to be doing. So again, I say, down or out.
Let's get out.
And so Wally waves and waits for the other two people who are now standing on the elevator to exit it.
Wally was the only one on the elevator.
Oh, I
Daniel
thought
and Chiron
Laura
vacated.
and Chole both were on the.
Yeah.
Because Chole found the button and
Laura
Laura
went
came on and.
Follow Wally. And she, follows him back out.
All right, Laura follows Wally out. Cholet, you're the only one left in there.
I'd leave after pulling out the button. I leave.
Okay, so we all leave, and the elevator's still stuck in emergency position with the doors open. And
Cholet, what did you say?
After I pulled the emergency stop, I get out of the.
So it was
Yeah.
pulled. Do you mean that you pulled it and previously left?
Yeah, as soon as I pulled it and I heard the emergency stuff, I got out of the elevator.
All right, that's why I'm double checking because I don't want anybody to be stuck inside of it as it then descends.
he doesn't want anyone to be mad when they suddenly realize that they're stuck in an elevator without the rest of the party and a bunch of monsters.
I try not to be a dick. I
If
try.
you're going to trap yourself, I will let you do it, but I will try to warn you beforehand. So everybody's off the elevator. The doors are still open as far as I'm aware. So where do we go now? Because this room seems like a bad place to stay.
How about that safe room? With all the food.
Oh, the statue room with your boyfriend Terminus. Yeah, well, okay.
Maybe we could get Mr. Hearst's Knights to take Daniel down there and give him some of the food.
Okay, Laura, I gotta ask, because, you're a demigod and you've been around this place. Is there any sort of, magical transport out of here? Any kind of, portal or, maybe a link up to some sort of underground cart system that you've never used? Are there any sort of magical bits from this place, aside from, the turnstiles we use to get here?
Not that I know of.
Oh, boy.
This place was non-magical when I helped build it.
Well, then it sounds like Hearst's private library, or Hearst's secret library, would be the best hiding spot. Has anybody got any better ideas?
That's where I tell him he's the anime manga. He's in a secret private library.
Yes. It's the fourth one, though. That's what.
Mm-hmm. I'm not a player, so I don't decide where you guys go.
Should we hide them in the private room?
Unless we've got a way to get them out of here very, very quickly, I feel like a safe room, at least for them, would be the best idea. I don't know that either one
Yeah. All
is
right.
fighting fit anytime soon.
I tell my knights, can
Yes,
take
sir,
him?
Hearst.
Can we take him to my private study?
But of course, we will take him to your private library. Let us about. They then drag him and thunk him against every wall they can along the way, lifting him up, dragging him nose first along the stairs. You hear thunk, 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 thunk as he descends the 4 stairs leading the way, dragging through the carpet, hitting every single wall, dragging him through all the shrapnel. Off.
Wally looks at Chole and says, "Did you say private library or secret library?"
Off we go to the private library.
Well, I guess I should follow and make sure it's going to the right room.
Hi ho! Hi
Oh
ho!
boy. Oh boy.
Following Hearst's wishes we go.
What's Laura doing right now?
Baseball man.
Face palming.
Oh god.
Cholet, make sure your minions don't destroy too much of the rest of the hallway, please.
Well, it's too late now. I'd suggest we get after them and make sure that, these people are properly rescued before maybe going off and finding more people to rescue. Hi ho or not?
Hi ho.
All right then. David skips down the hallway, imitating the statues. Hi ho, and Wally's. He lights a pipe, but he's skipping it as well. Hi ho, it's off to the private library. For some reason, we go.
All right. I need Cholet as the knights to make a stealth check, please.
Oh no.
Boom, boom, boom.
Donk, donk, donk. That will be 16.
I like that they have your stealth and not mine. That's probably realistic.
All right. These animated suits of armor have a +0 to their sneak skill. What did you roll?
Oh god. Everyone hears them coming and marches out to eat some of the corpses they're carrying.
Cholet, what did you roll?
16 total.
Oh, good.
So, you're quite familiar with instructing minions to do your bidding for you. And you know that in particular, these knights are not the quietest that you've had ever working for you. So you quickly catch up to them and slow their pace for a moment, applying your stealth bonus instead of letting them wander about the hall. I will allow you to re-roll your stealth check using your modifier now.
Okay. 23.
Nice. Alright, so for all of the unseen creatures that you do not know of that are nearby, they may or may not have heard you. I will know that your stealth score is 23 going forward. David,
Mm-hmm.
I need you to make a stealth check as well. As with Wally, as you're singing down the hall, skipping away.
David's not very stealthy with this.
I'm smoking, so I'm not singing as much. That's why I still get my bonus. Oh! That is a nat 20. I am singing mentally.
Ooh.
Because I rolled a 30 for stealth. Maybe because David's just so big.
Yeah, David got a 7.
Don't worry, that's not nearly as bad as what Laura rolled.
She's mad. She's screaming at things to come out and fucking game on.
Laura's like trying to put things back on walls and feeling horribly.
Laura, as you are leaving the Celestial Suite, you recognize that some of the bits and pieces of monster around you are starting to move. You and everybody else seems to leave through the hallway as you get glimpses backwards towards a hand that has been severed off of whatever creature it was and is starting to crawl towards David and the suits of armor and following along. And it then, for a moment, stops, snaps in time
To the song.
to the song, and then continues crawling afterwards. Hi-ho, hi-ho.
Is it crawling menacingly at me? Or is it just like, hey, I like this tune?
You have not seen it yet. So Laura's the only one, since she left last from the area, to notice the clawing of hands and the reformation of a body crawling away.
Am I in the back?
You are in the back.
Oh, okay. Who's right in front of me?
Jack's in front of you, followed by Chiron, and then David, Wally, Cholet, and the Knights.
Okay, so I reach up and pat Jack on the shoulder. Zombie
What?
hand. Crawling zombie hand.
What do you mean?
There's a crawly hand on the ground, on animated hand crawling away. Zombie hand. Kill
is
it.
this a spell?
Kill
is
it.
this what do you want me to go find a hand
She
and kill it?
grabs Jack by the shoulders, flings him around, points. Crawly zombie hand.
Oh, that looks like a spider.
Ugh.
He flicks his watch into a golden sword for but a flash, then in a downward stroke pierces the palm of the hand flat to the ground, and it disintegrates into golden dust. Well, that was easy. And as he
A
turns to
lightning
you and
bolt rips
mentions
a hole to
that,
the second floor.
Wally, at this point, you've made it to the second floor. You look up, you see just the tip of a small sword piercing through the ceiling and gold dust dripping down. Jack turns to Laura, just out of the scene for Wally. Looking back, should we do anything about the other hands nearby? Because
God.
he points back
What?
and looks at some of the melting walls and the
Warning!
disturbing melting sources of light nearby, and says, there were more sources of light before. I think they're crawling upwards, other than this one, as he points it out to you. The dim light of his sword illuminating a small area within the actual celestial suite, pointing up as you see about 200 hands crawling upwards, spiraling towards what you recognize to be the water source above and bells above.
Oh, above the celestial suite.
Have either of you noticed that you're the only two still standing in this room?
I think we should leave. Yes. I'm going to keep going. Jack continues to walk, now at a much hurried pace.
Yeah, Laura follows Jack.
All right, let's have Laura roll her stealth.
Yeah, that was it.
That was. Now you roll again because
Okay.
you clearly had another encounter based off of this. David,
Yep.
as you continue down, skipping after the knights, you get glimpses both left and right throughout some of the other halls. And you notice that there are other minotaurs. In particular, you notice one has a very different setup than the other minotaur. He's got what appears to be a gray jumpsuit. Very reminiscent of like a repairman sort of thing. And he's carrying with him a chest, a small metal toolbox, and has a thick crescent wrench in his other hand as he hooks his way towards you. Clomp, 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 clomp. He looks at you, you being a Cyclops, says, Hey! Hey! Hey!
Hey.
Hey! I've met a lot of Cyclops that don't talk. Hey! I heard there was something wrong with the elevator. I'm here to fix it. You know where it is?
So I'm on the second floor. I'm the floor below where the elevator was on.
Yes. Wally, you do hear this conversation slightly in front of you, and because you are so deftly stealthy, you are able to quickly hide before you are spotted or even smelt by the Minotaur.
Yeah, you go. I point, like I turn and I point back down the hallway. You go that way, and then you go up some stairs, and yeah, there's honestly, I just came from
Yeah,
near-ish there.
you're a Cyclops too. I thought you came from there. Can you take me there? Can you show me?
Well, I am on my way over this way. If I wasn't, I would. But honestly, there's this trail of gooey red stuff, the kind of bloody look. Yeah, if you just follow that the way I was saying, it takes you right to the elevator.
All right. Well, I hear that you got some quick directions. I'm gonna follow those. I'm not too fond of stairs, but thank you. Bye. He then starts to walk off towards Wally as Wally ducks into the corner just out of sight. Laura and Jack notice the sound of hoof prints approaching up the stairs, sees the centaur, and the Minotaur greets the centaur. Hey, I heard something's wrong with the elevator. And he chants over to Chiron. Yeah! Something was wrong with it. You better go check it out. I hope nobody behind me impedes your progress.
I try to find some alcove closest room off the hallway that there are no hands.
Okay. So you manage to quickly jimmy and jankily shake the door handle as much as you can until you physically rip it out of its socket and push it forward, pulling Jack inside of this offshoot room with you, and slam the door shut as you wait. Chiron then calls back up. He's heading up now! I hope nobody impedes him! You're kind of weird, dude, but thanks.
Wally converts his stealth into a head down mumbling to himself as he walks by, and he's just like, oh yeah, no, I took a look at it. I bet it's 3436 celestial bearings. Those things are always going. As he walks by,
Go ahead and roll a deception check, Wally.
Oh man, my stealth was ridiculous. Now I gotta deceive people.
It was. If you remained silent and still, he was passing you without a cause. You acted, which changed it. It's like, yes, I want to stab him, but yes, beat him over the head.
Oh, my deception's a +5. That's good. That makes that a 17.
All right. He looks over to you, makes a wisdom saving throw.
Oh, damn it.
I forgot the stats for a minute. Laura, you're not the dungeon master. Stop trying to kill the party. What is the wisdom score? That's hard. I believe it's low. All right. With this, the Minotaur does see through your ruse and says, "Hey, you smell like a demigod. And motor oil. What brings you here?"
I bet it was because I was near that elevator. Taking demigods that they murder and chop into tiny bits. No, there's all kinds of blood and gold dust in there. Like I said, I was near that elevator. So if you go and you look at that elevator, I bet you'll smell like it too. I'm going to need a shower and a half before I go back to my monster girlfriend.
I think you should come with me, short one.
Well, I mean, you're making fun of me because I'm short. That's certainly not any way to treat anybody. We're all monsters in with.
I'm making fun of you because you're a demigod. You even got the half-blood shirt.
I stole this shirt off of another bloke who was running him. I mean, look how short I am. No self-respecting demigod of this height would go out in public. Clearly, I'm a monster like you.
What was the name of the demigod you stole that shirt from?
Oh, his name was Jerry Christopherson.
Jerry Christopherson.
He said he was from Camp Half-Blood, but I got a smell off of him like he was from, like the ocean or something like that. He might have been one of those
spawn of Poseidon?
I mean, it's possible, but there really aren't too many of them. Maybe he just, had a girlfriend who was, from the ocean. I've got a friend over here to make all sorts of girlfriends of the monsterly persuasion, and I nudge at David. This one here's got girlfriends in every...
is this true? The Minotaur looks over to David, waiting for David to choose whether he wants to assist in the deception or not.
All right. He's bashful. Says he's a one. But, I mean, let's be honest here. She's got snakes for hair, so that's really like a 30-woman man to begin with.
He does got a point. I actually got a date with this really nice Gorgon.
Oh,
And there was this other girl with a giant gun who killed him, shot him to death, and then when she saw him dying, gave him a kiss just to make sure he wouldn't forget her.
That
I'll
does
tell
definitely
you.
sound evil.
It's a hard knock life for monsters, lad, but you should really go check out that elevator. Think what sort of trouble you might be in if it's not working again soon.
All right, please make a persuasion check with advantage since David's helping you.
My first roll was a 20, so we'll just go ahead and stop there. I don't know what my persuasion is. Let me go check.
Are you sure you're not a demigod?
I'm as positive I'm not a demigod as chunks of demigod between my teeth. And I exhale a big plume of smoke that he can't identify and doesn't know isn't smoke demigod.
Ugh. Kind of smells a little dank. I can't really.
Probably smells a little like demigod. What do you think they use for fertilizer? Camp Half-Blood. They don't keep cattle.
I mean, they do got unicorn.
Yeah, but that's only so much poop, and they grow a lot of crops, especially Wally's private stash of crops.
He gives another strong whiff. All right, I better get moving then. And he clomps up the stairs, giving Laura and Jack enough time to hear him coming, duck into an alcove out of sight. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, we did keep him talking. Hey, go us, David. Good job.
Yeah. Using words instead of hammers.
All right.
Occasionally, that seems to be a good idea.
The pen is
Minotaur.
mightier than the switch axe sword.
Hammer.
The Minotaur does ascend the stairs, look about, stop for a moment, peers over towards the alcove that contains Jack and Laura hidden inside of it. Oh, what is that awful smell? Oh. And he continues, lifts up his shirt over his jumper, over his mouth and nose, which is elongated since he's a Minotaur and mostly looks like a cow. Lifts it up
Smells
over
like
his
his
shirt.
grandma.
Continues towards the elevator doors. Oh, it positively reeks over here.
Smells like his monster grandma.
He continues about going on his way. Laura, what do you do? As the monster walks by you, leaving out of sight and out of scene.
I make sure that we stay completely silent, don't move at all until we are pretty sure that he's all the way down the hall. We can't hear him anymore.
Alright, you manage to wait a couple of breaths, quietly sitting there. You look over to Jack for a moment, and he's got this wide-eyed, 1,000-yard stare, hearing helicopter noises pass by as he watches the Minotaur walk past. Unable to move, frozen in place, mouth agape.
Laura takes her hand and kind of shuts Jack's jaw. Okay, pretty boy, time to go.
I love that even Laura does the. Yeah, you are a bitch now, huh?
You then try the door and recognize that it is no longer set on its hinges. In your haste to try to get out of sight, you manage to, with a gripping of it, yank it out. It's quite loud, and the worst part of it is that it's disheartening because you hear the wood warping, the metal bending, scraping along the floor, and you see the handle itself leaves a dent in the wall behind it. You hurting the home that you've cared for so long. Your heart sinks for a moment.
Aw, I'm sad.
You sad.
Yeah.
Jack then pats you on the back. This house was shit anyway. Let's go.
Aw.
Oh.
Oof.
Ooh.
Laura comes back alone. I don't know what happened to him.
Yeah, Laura just starts to re-impale Jack with the Minotaur horns.
She pulls out the horn and notices he feels pain and just waves it in his face until he cries and shits himself.
Laura, do you descend?
Oh, yes. Yeah, because everyone's going back downstairs.
You descend down to the second floor. Jack follows you.
Trying to catch up to the rest of the party.
Begrudgingly, you and Jack arrive as Shotley and the suits of armor reach the private study of Hearst.
Mm-hmm.
You recognize this was not the way that you thought they'd be taking, because they took an offshoot to the private library instead of the secret library.
Yes.
But eventually catch up to them due to the large sound of the armor and hoof prints of Chiron leading the way. Clonk, 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 clank, 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 clank. Dragging the Cyclops, thwack, thwack. Whacking every bit of arts and decor that's inside of the house. Bashing his forehead, dragging his nose. You should have heard them on the stairs. It was thwack, 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 thwack. Cholet wasn't very specific with how to take them, so they're doing the minimal.
Yeah.
Aye, aye, sir. They drag him into the private study, toss him onto the table. You notice as he lands, there's a cloud of dust that spits up off the table as well. Some of the books get rattled on the shelves, and the art decor around some of the pottery wobbles in place for a moment and then rests back into position. You notice Laura get visibly stressed as they toss him on and starts to get a small vein in her forehead, starts to tense. And you notice her heart beating as her face turns red in anger.
What did they do?
They tossed Daniel onto the main table, which was thousands of dollars in handmade craftsmanship. Also had tons of books and manuscripts that you were helping refurbish at one point.
Because they're in the private library. Not
They
the
are in the
secret
private
library.
You also noticed that as they tossed him down, they almost knocked thousands, close to $1 million worth of pottery on the walls.
Yep. Laura doesn't say anything, but she goes around the perimeter of the room, just checking, just straightening everything that she can touch.
You find a small stool so you can reach the top shelf.
Rebends chicken wire. Making sure everything, at least, fixing things.
I tell the soldiers, "Oh, dear me, it seems I forgot we're supposed to go to the secret room. But let's go take them a little gentler. I don't want to replace any of these precious artifacts again."
Oh, yes,
As Wally catches up, he goes, "Secret library! Oh, secret room!"
I said, "Secret room."
Too late, and off they go.
They start taking off towards...
Secret.
You do know that the secret area that had been reserved for Hearst himself was a combination room and library. You suspect that the statues, seeing as their primary directive was to defend a similar station and area, would probably be aware of it, and they start to lead in that direction. This time, carrying him in a more ginger manner. They're actually lifting him up and have the one that has 2 arms remaining lifts him up by the head and shoulders area, carries him. The other one with 1 arm grabs both of his feet and lifts it up, and this time they manage to, as if carrying a very elongated, large couch, wedge their way through the hallway. Eventually, we find our way towards the secret safe area and haven of Hearst's secret library. They manage to put Daniel in a small cushioned chair, and everybody meets up at the library. The secret. You notice that the food itself has disappeared.
But at least we're in the super secret, super safe, super secret library.
Dolores, anything you do want to say? Anything you want to handle?
So, here we all are, safe again, back in a room we were in before, while he looks over at Terminus. Is Terminus awake? Alright, so, yeah, we've not got to deal with that idiot, and safe. What's the next move? I mean, initially I thought that, we came here to eliminate the monsters and make this castle fit for human habitation. I mean, it seems like Camp Half-Blood and, Camp Jupiter are both pretty much shit at this point, and they're looking for a place to hide while we figure out the rest of this, and I was hoping that this castle could be it, but now here we are, and this castle's got a built-in elevator to hell, so what's our next move?
Were we supposed to go to that one enclosure?
We were supposed to go talk to the harpies. About
Should
getting
we make our way to
keys to
harpies?
things. But all right, we can certainly do that. Is anyone going to stay here and guard the gimps? I say, gesturing to the Cyclops, who's, I'm assuming, still unconscious, and the horseman, who, based on bumping into things head first, is probably also unconscious.
What made you think he was bumping into things head first?
Well, I mean, the knights weren't being very careful for the first little while, so, I mean, I'm assuming that people's heads bounced off of shit, and if they were gonna wake up, they probably did not.
Yes, the Cyclops was. Chiron was walking behind you just fine.
Oh, he was upright. I didn't realize he was walking, so I thought he was being carried as well.
No, they were only carrying and dragging Daniel.
My bad. I would have started having conversations with him before this is conscious. Anyways, so now here we are back at the room, and, just these two, just to make sure they don't, almost die twice in one day, or should we just, go off to the polar bear cage without them? Anybody want to take a short rest?
Laura does.
So does David. David still isn't batting at 100.
You would suspect if you can secure the area, you could take a long rest.
Yeah.
Maybe with some sort of password and guards that have some method of securing the only entrance into the room. You could probably take an evening's rest and possibly get breakfast out of it. If only that had been foretold before.
Do you know, Chotley, if you put those two knights on watch duty, I mean, I don't imagine they need to sleep. Do you, boys?
No, sir!
Oh, they answered me. I was quite surprised. You're very respectful. I like you. I might try to make something like you at some point. All right, so is there any chance you two would be willing to, keep watching the entrance or exit to this room whilst, we take a quick a quick nap. Sorry, you're American knights, not British ones. Sorry.
We take orders from Hearst.
Well,
all right, so Hearst.
A little tired, eye. You watch the room for us while we catch a wee bit of sleep.
Sir, we can stand guard out front. I do believe you also have a manner of walking and engaging other defensive measures here.
Well, he's very tired. He might not remember.
We were never told the password, sir. You kept it only for yourself.
Oh, snap.
I think just you two as guards should be sufficient. I've seen what you can do, and I give them the sidearm pats on both of them.
You mean we don't want to wake up Terminus and ask for the food to come back?
I was like, should we ask him in the morning or should we ask him now?
We could certainly do both, but I think having these statues on the outside of the door so that if something happens, we'll hear it before it's, waking us up with a knife to our throats would probably be best.
Where would you
Meanwhile,
like us?
I was just going to look at David and just be like, maybe you should wake up your concrete boyfriend.
Maybe I should wake him up and what?
You should wake up your concrete boyfriend over there and see if he wants to give us a hand.
Don't forget the password.
What was it? Taco Verde? What was it?
Yep, that's it. If Laura says it, is it gonna trigger?
I was prompting David to make sure he remembered it.
Yeah.
No, it's
Wally was fucking with him. Sorry, Wally was picking on him. Does David remember those words?
It was Casa Grande.
There you
Oh,
go.
look at you with the big words.
Oh boy.
We are now engaging the protective defensive measures on the boundary of the Esplanade and Casa Grande. You notice as the helmed horrors, the animated statues that you've been using as soldiers and calling knights, depart from the room, not of their own accord. They seem to be reacting to the now imbued magic into the area, march themselves over to their pedestals, and reform their own clank, clank, clank postures that they were at previously. The door itself slams shut, forcing everyone else inside into the room, and you hear a large, heavy metal door spin, locks engage, pins drive into their sockets. The room is now pressurized. Welcome, Mr. Hearst and Hebe.
Oh.
Wally walks over to the other side, the closed entry to the room, and puts his hand to the wall and feels with his mind inside it to make sure that the seals that are around the room are not only mechanical but also magical as well.
Go ahead and roll investigation.
Wow. My investigation rolls are all really, really low. Thank GD for that plus 10, because that's still a 19.
As you extend your understanding out towards the door, before your fingertips press against it, you feel an immediate psychic backlash towards you. You sustain 1d4 psychic damage from the emergency doors.
Well, okay then.
Ow.
That's going to be a 3. So 3 points of damage. At which point, Wally turns around, wincing, looks at everybody else, and basically goes, well, it seems like this is about as safe as it's going to get if anybody wants to take a nap. Any chance of food? He looks at David.
How do I get the food to come back? What did I do the first time?
I don't know, try something. I mean, we're all blood. It's been a long day. Things have died.
I'm gonna.
Some of them are in this room. He looks at Jack.
I'm gonna turn back to Terminus. Can we get some of that food back?
Try some passwords. Say like picnic protocol or some shite.
Activating picnic protocol.
Oh shit!
You see a small woven basket appears, a gingham cloth, red and white stripes all the way up and down the now central table that was in front of you. And you recognize the faint whiff of French bread, warm butter. You have cutlery, plates, and everything in front of you. Small goblets of cherry and grape juice appear. There's an abundant source of food, both fruits and meats and cheeses, inside these woven baskets. There are 3 of them expanding all along the tablecloth. We hope you enjoy your picnic, sir.
Shirley digs in.
Wally digs in as well. Who's sitting next to him?
I am.
David goes to Daniel and tries to wake him up.
How does David wake Daniel
Um,
I mean,
Did you
Wally
hear
was
that?
just
Did you hear
throwing bits
Laura?
of warm sausage at his face.
I'm gonna like poke him in the side. And, like, hey, and kind of like, and if the poking with a finger doesn't work, go to like the open palm, like doing the shake like that. Like, hey, gotta wake up now. There's food.
You guys beat the hell out of each other instead of giving each other a hug. So just food for thought.
He took a lightning bolt and he's been possessed. Like, he doesn't need to get punched in the face for a wake up call.
That might equal a kiss to him.
You didn't get a lot of marital advice from him or anything about his wife.
I'm just saying, like, he's a
No,
Cyclops. He sets high by hurting things.
If that is gonna equal a smooch, like, I'm gonna let that just be a thing between him and his wife.
Fair enough.
I believe
Like,
Laura had some advice.
I didn't. It was just being.
I think Corey saying that means that whatever you said was a good idea and you should say it again.
What did Laura suggest?
I muttered, "You need to lick his ear."
Oh,
So,
yeah.
Take
Yeah.
that as you will, sir.
The bus told you to bite him, so she's not necessarily wrong. He's clearly kinky. It's up to you.
David's gonna do this in the Davidist fashion. He's going to give Daniel a wet willy.
Alright,
God.
you stick your big old finger,
I thought you were going to lick him.
give a
was waiting
harsh
for it.
suction out of your mouth as you withdraw your finger, still dripping with your saliva. Do you choose the left ear or the right ear?
Which ear is
Guillermo
closer to me?
Mojado.
He's laying flat on his back in the chair, arms and legs strewn about. You have easy access to either. Your choice.
Well, I'm gonna say that I used the right finger, the right hand to get the finger wet. So I'm gonna go for his left ear, which will be on my right side.
All right. I need you to make a strength saving throw.
Ooh.
You gave him a Guillermo Mojado.
A strength saving.
Oh, God.
17.
All right. You saw it coming for but a fraction of a second. As you plunge and penetrate his ear canal with your
Phrasing.
wet willy of a finger, it slides in easily, and you get about 2 inches in before you see his eye shudders open, and he quickly closes the distance between your face and his face in a nanosecond, and he headbutts you square on the face. You tense your jaw, close your eyes, brace for impact, and take 1d4 damage.
But he's awake.
1d4 is gonna be. Woohoo! 1.
Nice. All right. With that, that lowers you to 30 HP. But you are now staring in the chocolate-colored eye, this warm, familiar eye of Daniel, as he stares at you for but a moment. What? Nobody does that to me except my wife, sir. Good to see you, David.